Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. My attributes are doubled infinitely, and I become a billion points stronger every day. Chapter 81. A ball of light flew out of the building and came silently over the town. With a snap of Li Luyao's fingers, the ball of light began to grow rapidly, quickly covering the sky like an inflated balloon and turning into a golden moon. Under the moonlight, the sea of blood that flooded the town became extremely restless due to unknown forces. A rain of blood started falling again, but this time it did not fall on the ground, but flew into the sky. Such a scene is shocking and unique. If you don't see it with your own eyes, no one will believe it. Many students were stunned with their jaws raised, their mouths open and their heads tilted up in a daze. After thinking for a long time, they only yelled. The well-informed invigilators were not much better either. They were wondering in their minds whether an SSS-level powerhouse would suddenly come to the rescue, or whether the boss behind the scenes was about to make another big move. This sea of blood returns to the sky, and if another 1,000 arrows are fired, wouldn't everyone die? In the deafening silence, countless amounts of blood were seen gathering on the ball of light, gradually dyeing the golden moon bright red, looking indescribably weird. Suddenly there was a bang. The silver bottle is broken. There was a crisp sound. Grand fireworks exploded in the night sky. Golden flames and bright red tides intertwine into dazzling flowers and stars. There are fire dragons dancing wildly, phoenixes spreading their wings, jade rabbits running across the sky, and white deer bumping around in the night. The stars in the sky move according to some strange trajectory, quietly outlining beautiful faces and alluring shadows. Among those figures are the happy Joe Rongrong, the lively Joe Rongrong, the cold Joe Rongrong, the enthusiastic Joe Rongrong, the smiling Joe Rongrong, the angry Joe Rongrong jumping up and down, the cute Joe Rongrong in pink home clothes, and the fairy-like Joe Rongrong in a white dress. Every image of Joe Rongrong is lifelike, vivid on the page, exuding full charm with every move of her hands and feet, and every smile can capture countless audiences. That was all the Joe Rongrong Li Luyao had seen so far, and it was the Joe Rongrong he could never tire of in his mind. This sudden surprise made the onlookers cheer and burst into cheers. It's the examiner. Sure enough, it's the examiner who came to save us. Director Joe is indeed a goddess. Each of these photos is incredibly beautiful. Does this count as a welfare? Yes, the director is usually very low-key, but he is not so narcissistic. Is there some bold guy who is confessing his love to the director again? This is definitely a confession. This is so romantic. If I were the director, I would definitely agree immediately. Together, I approve this marriage. Whoever objects is the grandson. I object. I object too. Amidst the chaotic laughter, I saw a flash of light in the sky, falling nearby in the blink of an eye. Joe Rongrong was wearing a white wedding dress, with Count Dracula at his feet, and said coldly to everyone, "Attention everyone, line up immediately to count the number of people. If anyone says one more word, don't blame me for being rude." I announced that this year's special recruitment examination it's officially over. When it was getting dark, Li Luyao got on the bus back to the city. Shortly after the water receded, super-powered police and medical teams successfully entered the scene for rescue. Joe Rongrong presided over the finishing work and was extremely busy. She only whispered a few words to Li Luyao before leaving. "Wait for me in the room, don't go anywhere, understand?" Li Luyao nodded and happily accepted the arrangement. The thrilling journey ended in a very ordinary way. The teammates were all listless and sleepy. After chatting for a few words, they fell asleep in their seats. After the bus entered the city, the teammates exchanged contact information and left. A Chun left a bag of magic cores to Li Luyao as a thank you gift. Everyone made an appointment to have hot pot together tomorrow, and there wasn't much sadness about parting. Only Mo Wangshu secretly shed a lot of tears and warned him fiercely about what would happen if he didn't go on the date. Li Luyao sent everyone away with a wry smile. He originally thought that the bus would take him to a villa in the community to join other Yingchuan classmates, but the driver took him to a nearby high-end hotel, saying that it was arranged by the examiner. Li Luyao had no objection and swiped his card into the room with his small school bag on his back. The room was a deluxe suite, several times larger than his 8-person dormitory. Suddenly returning from the abandoned small-town life to the colorful modern city, Li Luyao ate a lot of hotel breakfast before he recovered. He went to the bathtub and took a bath, then showered and changed into pajamas, and then fell into a soft bed, fell asleep on the feather mattress. He slept for an eternity, and when he finally regained consciousness, he noticed a familiar scent next to him. When he reached out and touched it, he found it soft and smooth, making him unable to put it down. Opening his eyes suddenly, he found Joe Rongrong sleeping next to him, and his evil hands were playing with that beautiful face that brought disaster to the country and the people. Li Luyao was so frightened that he almost jumped up. You won't have an erotic dream again. When did Joe Rongrong come in, and why didn't she notice it at all? Looking around, I saw Joe Rongrong wearing a lace suspender pajamas, her long hair flooding the pillow like a waterfall, exuding a good fragrance, and then down she saw her fair neck, delicate collarbones, bulging chest, and big blouse at the hem of her skirt. The long legs are looming, creating a beautiful scenery. With such a beautiful woman beside him, Li Luyao felt that he should do something. No matter what, it is better to be an animal than an animal. Besides, since he had made such a great contribution last night, even if he did something deviant, Rongrong would definitely not blame him. But then I thought about it, Rongrong had to sleep in the same bed with him. Wasn't this a deliberate test for him? How can a normal person withstand such a big test? Even if the saint comes, he can't control it. Li Luyao stretched out his hand and swallowed to stop the nosebleed, hesitating between the two options of beast and beast. Until Joe Rongrong opened his eyes leisurely, stared at the red-faced Li Luyao, and asked leisurely. Is sister pretty? Good looking. Li Luyao blurted out, completely unaware of the danger. Have you seen enough? No, I can't see enough in one lifetime, and I won't be afraid of it in the next life. Li Luyao had a serious look on his face, as if he was answering a familiar question in class, with a confident expression. Death is not serious. Joe Rongrong scolded her lightly, but she was not angry at all. She got up and got out of bed gracefully, and said casually, let's have something to eat. We have plans later. Watching the goddess leave, with broken hair and a faint fragrance still left on the bed, Li Luyao wished he could give himself a slap, and said sadly, I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. Joe Rongrong, who was about to wash up, heard the sound and turned around and asked, what did you say? No, I didn't say anything. I was asking the teacher when you came here. I came back after finishing the finishing work in the town. I had a meeting at the bureau all day, and I originally planned to take you to dinner, but you slept like a pig and couldn't wake up, so I took the opportunity. I squinted for a while. I slept pretty well this time. You seem to have the power to relax me, which is rare. Quote. Oh, okay, that's good. Li Luyao didn't know what the relaxing power Joe Rongrong mentioned was. He quickly sniffed his body like a puppy, but didn't smell any strange smell, so he changed his clothes and got up, thinking about the next arrangements. After a while, Joe Rongrong finished washing up and changed into a white suit and skirt. She looked like she was going to work. Li Luyao asked curiously, where should we go later? Joe Rongrong looked at the hotel menu in his hand and said casually, no need to worry, we can have a meal first. Without asking Li Luyao's preferences, Joe Rongrong ordered the dishes on his own initiative and ordered the hotel staff to bring them directly to the room. While waiting for the food to be served, the two of them took a nap on the balcony sofa. Li Luyao kept his eyes on Rongrong, looking for various topics at will, cherishing this kind of alone time. Joe Rongrong was a little annoyed by being stared at, and said angrily, why do you always look at me? Is there something wrong with my face? Shouldn't you be concerned about the results of this special recruitment examination? This is related to the qualifications for admission to Qingbei University. Quote. Li Luyao really doesn't care much about the qualifications for recommendation. What he cares about is always first place and the rewards after winning first place. But this special recruitment ended early, do these results still count? Shouldn't they all be cancelled and retake the exam directly? Joe Rongrong saw through his mind at a glance and said to herself, although this special recruitment exam was messed up, the results from the first 2 days still count. The 10 recommended students will be selected from here. Li Luyao did not ask if he was among the 10 people. Instead, he asked with concern, the organization didn't punish you, right? I heard that if this kind of thing is messed up, the consequences must be serious. Joe Rongrong smiled faintly. the highly anticipated special recruitment examination selection was interrupted, which is certainly a minor accident. However, we have made up for it by catching Count Dracula, a famous A-class fugitive on the list. To be honest, the credit this time may be greater than the accident. After all, he is the vampire leader, a notorious terrorist. That guy has a lot of background. That's right, Count Dracula is the spy chief sent to China by the European Superpower Association. He has committed many major crimes over the years. However, he is very good at hiding his traces. The organization has always been unable to do anything to him. Unexpectedly, he will commit suicide this time. I fell into a trap and fell into your hands. Li Luyao understood very well why Count Dracula suddenly showed up. After all, that guy was chasing Joe Rongrong from the beginning to the end. His purpose was to use teachers and students as hostages to force Joe Rongrong to marry. In the end, he was still Joe Rongrong's beauty was captured, and she even did such a stupid thing. If Li Luyao hadn't stepped forward, it might have happened. It can be seen from this that even the devil can't stop Joe Rongrong's charm. I have reported your name for your contribution to the capture of Dracula this time. I believe the organization's generous rewards and subsequent rating upgrades will be implemented soon. However, in view of the current international situation, this incident has been classified as national-level confidentiality. Your name, ability and incident will not be known to the outside world, even you must keep it strictly confidential, do you understand? Ah, I understand. Is it necessary to mobilize an army like this? I thought I just defeated an ordinary demon casually. Li Luyao was thinking about it, and Joe Rongrong suddenly straightened his face and said seriously, I haven't mentioned the vampire gene in you to the organization for the time being, otherwise you will be controlled immediately. Li Luyao was stunned and quickly explained, is it so serious? I don't feel anything unusual about myself. Li Luyao looked at himself in the mirror. There were no horns on his head, no fangs in his mouth, and the wings on his back had long since disappeared. He looked no different from a normal person. Joe Rongrong said angrily, I really don't know what you think. You actually dared to take the initiative to drink the blood of a vampire. Don't you know that those are highly toxic substances? We don't know how many people in our country have been infected by the vampire virus. Humans are not ghosts. It's not a ghost, there's absolutely no way to cure it. You have no idea how dangerous it is. Well, Li Luyao scratched his head and said with a silly smile, isn't it an emergency at that time? If I didn't do that, how could I beat that stinky bat away? I didn't have time to think so much at the time. Joe Rongrong also remembered the fierce battle on the attic. She was not good at fighting, so she didn't help much from beginning to end. Li Luyao basically killed Dracula alone. Thinking of this, a smile finally appeared on Joe Rongrong's face, and she praised, your performance this time is indeed unexpected, and it is much more reliable than I imagined. Li Luyao said cheerfully, that's not true. As long as I'm here, no one will bully you. After saying that, he finally remembered something important and asked, by the way, where did I rank in this exam? Am I the first? Joe Rongrong rolled her eyes, you're still number 1. You didn't even make it into the top 30. Your team and individual points are both a mess. You didn't take the exam well at all, right? How is that possible? Li Luyao cried out that he was wronged. I led the team in an orderly manner, hunted many demons with my own hands, and won a bunch of magic cores from the old man in exchange for points. My results can't be that bad. Joe Rongrong picked up her phone and directly opened an undisclosed score document for Li Luyao to take a look at. 47th place, this is too nonsense. I want to retake the exam. I want to appeal. Li Luyao held his head in his hands, his face full of disbelief. Seeing Li Luyao's deflated appearance, Joe Rongrong laughed so hard at the side that he couldn't stop laughing and said, I'm teasing you, but you take it seriously. Several of your battles have been classified as state secrets and are not allowed to be disclosed to the public. The Invigilator naturally I can't give you any extra points. If you include Count Dracula, Goat Demon, and Necromantic Magic, you can easily get the first place in the exam. First place. Li Luyao had mixed feelings in his heart. The purpose of taking the special recruitment examination was never for the qualification of recommendation, but for the reward Joe Rongrong had promised. But now, although he theoretically got first place, his actual result was outside 40. This is equivalent to being number one in terms of hard power, but not winning the championship. In that case, wouldn't the reward still be wasted? You performed very well this time. Although the final result was not ideal, in my heart, you deserve the first place. So, as a reward. Joe Rongrong suddenly leaned over, and the moment the fragrance hit her, a sweet kiss gently fell on Li Luyao's forehead. Ah! Li Luyao screamed in surprise. Never thought the kiss you dreamed of would come this way. He couldn't help but close his eyes and felt a surge of ecstasy welling up in his heart. It was obviously just a simple kiss, which lasted only 3 seconds from start to finish, but it seemed to have turned into an eternal picture, and time was frozen here, forever fixed here. He felt that the spiritual energy fluctuations of the two people merged together, and the golden flames and the cold wind and snow completely merged into one, and they could no longer distinguish each other. In a daze, he had a dream. In his dream, he saw a brilliant light deep in his mind, like the only color between the world and the beginning of chaos, or like the brilliant brilliance of the Big Bang. Countless magical pictures were reflected in the light and shadow. He saw that the entire Milky Way was rotating rapidly, and the huge black hole was pulling countless galaxies into beautiful cantilevers. The star-named Sun outside the edge of the third spiral arm has just been born. This ideal sphere intertwined with hot plasma and magnetic field destroys everything and gives birth to everything. On the blue planet 149.6 million kilometers away from it, countless creatures are quietly taking shape here. He saw the birth of the Earth, and primitive life miraculously descended here. What followed was the long Archean Ice Age, until the ice and snow melted and everything revived, and the first multicellular organisms emerged from their cocoons. The road of life evolution is bumpy, slow and inexhaustible. The Cambrian explosion of life was like a colorful firework, playing a harmonious symphony of life. 560 million years ago, trilobites were born. 470 million years ago, coral reefs and the first vertebrates, jawless fish, were born. 410 million years ago, land vertebrates were born. 365 million years ago, rooted plants were born. 230 million years ago, dinosaurs were born. Birds were born 140 million years ago. 120 million years ago, flowering plants were born. 20 million years ago, primitive humans were born. The creatures that inhabit the Earth have changed one after another. This planet has changed again and again from a lava planet, an ocean planet, a glacier planet, and a blue planet. Fortunately, Mother Earth has never abandoned her children. No matter in any era, there is a certain species that bravely carried the banner of life evolution until humans finally stood at the top of the food chain. Li Luyao wandered in the endless river of time and witnessed the miracles of life again and again. He seemed to have become a part of the Earth's consciousness, becoming one with this magical and great planet. There is no experience more novel than this. There is no journey more amazing than this. Li Luyao felt an indescribable feeling of happiness in his heart. Calm, peaceful, quiet, content. I don't know how much time passed. Joe Rongrong finally stood up and left, and asked do you like it? Li Luyao nodded blankly, still immersed in great joy and unable to recover, and said blankly, I like it, of course I like it. Joe Rongrong smiled proudly, that's good. If you like it, sister has plenty here. As long as you can complete the next task obediently, sister can reward you. Next mission. Li Luyao's expression perked up and he suddenly smiled, what's the next task? It's no problem even if you go up the knife mountain and down the frying pan. What's the hurry? Eat first. The 3 dishes and 1 soup brought by the waiter were placed on the table. The dishes are simple home-cooked dishes, including tomatoes, eggs, green peppers, shredded pork, celery, mushrooms, and shredded potatoes. Li Luyao ate absent-mindedly, his mind filled with strange thoughts. Joe Rongrong's kiss just now shocked him as much as the night when he awakened to the infinite attribute panel. A simple kiss on the forehead gave him the most amazing enjoyment in his life. It's hard to imagine what it would be like to be able to have a romantic kiss, French kiss, and wet milk communication in the future. Joe Rongrong is indeed a beauty in the world, a disaster for the country and the people, and the lover of dreams. Even the succubus has to avoid this kind of temptation. Eat well, don't be distracted, why don't I just kiss you? Why are you so surprised? You haven't been kissed since you were so old, right? Quote. Li Luyao smiled awkwardly and politely. Of course he would not admit that he was still a baby, so he asked a strange question. Rongrong, no. Teacher Joe. No. Sister, have you kissed anyone else before? Joe Rongrong's eyes widened and she said angrily, do you think you are a casual sister? This is my sister's first kiss. First kiss. First kiss is good. First kiss is so good. Li Luyao blushed with joy. I can't wait to carry out the next mission. A group of ducks are passing under the bridge in front of the gate. Come on, count them, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. A lovely phone rang, and Joe Rongrong took it. We're already here, right? I'll be down right away. Don't draw too much attention to yourself. I don't want anyone to discover my whereabouts. After hanging up the phone, Joe Rongrong said fiercely to Li Luyao, finish the meal within 3 minutes, we are leaving. The elevator door swung open to both sides. Li Luyao wore a peaked cap with the brim very low, followed Joe Rongrong, and left the hall furtively. A black car was waiting outside the hotel for a long time. Joe Rongrong opened the door and got in the car, beckoning Li Luyao to sit next to him. The driver was an uncle whom Li Luyao met when he was in Yingchuan. Hey, where are we going? Why are we acting like secret agents? Why are we so mysterious? Shut up, you'll know when you get there. Joe Rongrong turned on the cold ferry mode and chatted directly to death. Li Luyao shrugged and didn't care much. He thought that this mission was nothing more than hunting demons, protecting peace, and saving the earth. As long as it was related to fighting, he had nothing to be afraid of. Half an hour later, a black car arrived outside a suburban hospital. The hospital is hidden in an inconspicuous park and was transformed from an old dilapidated church. Gloomy woods, cemeteries can be seen everywhere, and the air is full of ominous smell. The uncle driver got off the car and left, creating a private space for the two of them to be alone. Joe Rongrong, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. This is a vampire hospital that specializes in treating patients infected with the vampire virus. Your mission is to stay here until your body recovers and is completely recovered. Understand? Li Luyao seemed to understand. Does it have to be like this? I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with me. I don't need to go to the hospital specifically. It's not up to you. The doctor has to check it out. Let's go. I'll accompany you in. Joe Rongrong opened the door and got out of the car. Li Luyao was a little repelled, thinking that this kind of task was too trivial and completely unnecessary, but for the sake of the reward, he thought it wouldn't hurt to give it a try. After completing the task, can you kiss me again? Little pervert. Joe Rongrong turned back and glared at him. Do you like this kind of thing that much? The back entrance of the hospital. As soon as Joe Rongrong and Li Luyao arrived, a middle-aged female doctor wearing thick glasses opened the door to receive them. Rongrong, this way. The female doctor said hello and led the guest through the kitchen passage to the empty office. When everyone was seated, the doctor looked at Li Luyao and said straight to the point. The patient you are talking about is this child, right? He looks quite normal. Are you sure he is infected with the vampire virus? Joe Rongrong also glanced at Li Luyao and said with disdain, Sister Chen, don't look at this other person. He went crazy last night and bit the vampire's neck to drink blood. I didn't even dare to report this. Otherwise, he would definitely be in a mental hospital by now. Bite the vampire's neck. Dr. Chen pushed up his glasses and was a little surprised. These people under your command are indeed more crazy than the other, and they will kill each other when they get into a fight. Don't worry, I will give him good treatment. As he spoke, he pressed a button on the table, and a nurse immediately opened the door and came in. Take him for a checkup, a comprehensive checkup. Okay, doctor. Li Luyao was taken away by the nurse. Before leaving, he was still a little nervous and asked Joe Rongrong, are you just waiting for me here? Can you go out after the examination? That's a nice idea. I'll sit down for a while and then leave. I'll pick you up when you're discharged from the hospital. Joe Rongrong said a cold word, and at the end she did not forget to tell her, take good care of yourself here. This is a task assigned to you by your superiors. Do you understand? Li Luyao shouted. Then don't forget the reward. Don't worry, sister, I always do what I say. Why are you acting like a little brat? Get checked quickly. Poor Li Luyao was sent away, and began to undergo physical examinations under the leadership of the nurse. He didn't pay much attention to vampire viruses or anything like that. Although he had long realized that his body was affected by vampire genes, the reason why he was able to heal his body with blood last night and the big golden wings grew from his back was because he had acquired vampire abilities. But now his body's three-dimensional attributes have already exceeded 1,000, and both physical and mental strength are far beyond the reach of normal people. The mere vampire genes can't do anything to him. As long as he is strong enough, he can turn this special ability into his own. Used, it is unlikely to be assimilated into a smelly bat. In this case, treatment of diseases would of course be superfluous. He really didn't have a good impression of the hospital. With this thought, he tried to use some tricks to temporarily suppress the vampire virus in his body. After all, as long as it can't be detected, all kinds of problems will be solved. The hospital is very large, and Li Luyao shuttles between departments, feeling that time is passing quickly. Inspection, palpation, percussion, auscultation, digital examination, X-ray examination, CT examination, MRI examination, the ultrasound examination. Skin, spine, heart, liver, spleen, kidney, thyroid, lymph nodes, limb joints. Blood routine, urine routine, stool routine, blood gas analysis, blood electrolyte test, liver function test, kidney function test, bone metabolism test, lipid metabolism test, glucose metabolism test, thyroid function test, tumor markers. Li Luyao felt as if he had become an experimental specimen, and all aspects of his body were recorded and exposed to others. The inspection report alone cost half a person, and it was full of professional data that he couldn't understand. 3 hours later, Li Luyao finally returned to the doctor's office. After just drinking a glass of water, Dr. Chen finished flipping through the examination report and solemnly announced, "There is no doubt that you have been infected with the vampire virus. The vampire gene has modified every aspect of your body. If you don't want to die, just be honest." Treatment in the hospital. Li Luyao had a question mark on his face and thought to himself, "I've tried so hard to pretend to be an ordinary person, why did I still show up? Where did you find out? Can I not need treatment?" Li Luyao said weakly. "You can also see that I am actually fine. I don't have any vampire qualities at all, and it is impossible to become a vampire. Otherwise, you should let me go." Dr. Chen said with a serious face, "In all the case reports of vampire virus infection, all aspects of your body data appear to be extremely abnormal. Now the less obvious the external features are, the greater the possibility of terminal illness. You were brought by Rongrong guest. Don't worry, I won't give up on you and will do my best to treat you." Li Luyao continued to insist, "What if I voluntarily give up treatment? Then you won't survive a week. Really, I don't believe it." In Dr. Chen's eyes, Li Luyao is now like a child who avoids medical treatment and refuses to face the disease. She has seen too many such patients. She sighed, took out a case manual from the drawer, threw it in front of Li Luyao, and introduced. Once humans are infected with the vampire virus, they will become inhuman beings. This virus has extremely high activity. It will transform all organs of the human body from the inside out, including external features, making it very easy to identify. Abroad, vampires use this method to attract believers, recruit slaves, and expand their power. However, the infected people lose their freedom and can only spend their lives like walking zombies. They disguise virus infection as the awakening of superpowers, and also treat vampires as to be classified as a serious superpower is simply unreasonable. And our country has always been committed to hunting down various types of vampires and will never allow them to invade the Chinese people. All patients infected by the virus, whether active or passive, must receive professional medical treatment. Under normal circumstances, an infected patient will have a crazy bloodthirsty need on the first night, and will involuntarily hunt and kill nearby creatures and drain the blood from their bodies. By the next day, the patient who has drunk enough will become a vampire. External characteristics begin to appear, including but not limited to black horns, fangs, wings, vampire marks, fear of cross garlic, pale complexion and fear of sunlight. On the third day, most patients will completely become low-level vampires. On the fourth day, Li Luyao couldn't stand listening anymore and interrupted, "Doctor, please stop scaring me. Just tell me how to treat it." Dr. Chen said. We will inject you with antiviral serum in the next few days to see the effect. As for the specific treatment plan, we need to wait for the expert meeting to make arrangements. To be honest, this is my first time with a special case like yours. See, I have never seen someone whose body has been completely transformed into a vampire internally, but can still maintain a human appearance on the outside. Don't you feel that your heart rate is too fast, your mouth is dry, and you are dizzy? Li Luyao smiled. No. Dr. Chen was startled and said hurriedly, it seems that you are really not far away from death. Xiao Lu, take him to the intensive care unit. Yes, we can't wait for a moment. He must receive treatment immediately. I slept on the hospital bed and was rushed to the intensive care unit by doctors and nurses. Li Luyao was as quiet as a chicken along the way, without any resistance. He had to admit that what Dr. Chen just said was very convincing, especially the pictures and texts in the promotional case book about the symptoms and consequences of contracting the vampire virus, which made him very curious as to what use he would be able to encounter. It is said that every patient will burst out with an extreme thirst for blood on the first night after contracting the disease, and will uncontrollably drain the blood of any creature around him, whether it is a human or an animal. Li Luyao clasped his fingers and thought, if things really develop like that and even he loses control, he will probably be killed and turned upside down. After all, the person who can stop him may not be born yet. Thinking about that situation is really exciting. Etc. What are you excited about? You are a good young man with 5 principles, 4 beauties and 3 loves, okay. How could you be controlled by a mere vampire virus? Even if you want to control, you have to become a vampire emperor to control other people. Can your ideal pursuit be more ambitious? When the 2 little people in my heart were fighting, Li Luyao had already been put on a ventilator and installed a monitor. The anesthesia machine, electrocardiograph, defibrillator, pacemaker, infusion pump, and microsyringe beside him were all ready. Dr. Chen took matters into his own hands and first gave him an injection in his butt. Then dozens of bags of colorful liquids were delivered and the infusion started immediately. Well, isn't this medicine too much? If this continues, the infusion alone will take a day. Can you change to something else? Li Luyao hesitated and protested softly. Dr. Chen completely ignored him, instructing the nurses on various precautions, and started a class on the spot, using Li Luyao as a rare case teaching material, and he lectured with great emotion. Forget it. I'm here anyway, I have to get a few injections before I leave. I don't know what Rongrong is doing now, I plan to go on a date with her. The movie is coming. Under the influence of drugs and self-hypnosis, Li Luyao fell asleep, hoping to see Rongrong in his dream. When he woke up again, Li Luyao found himself lying in an empty ward. All the medical instruments around him were gone, leaving only a pair of restraints that tied him to the bed from head to toe, making him unable to move. Li Luyao lightly snapped his fingers, and the restraint belt on his body was automatically disconnected. He stretched his neck and shouted, "Is anyone there? What time is it now? I'm hungry." No one responded, only his own echo lingered in the room. Why does this feel so familiar? Shouldn't I be locked up again? Li Luyao thought like this, and sure enough he found several cameras on the ceiling. I'm here to treat illnesses, and I'm not a prisoner. It's too inhumane to lock me up like this. Li Luyao cursed and got out of bed, came to the door and held the door handle. The door was undoubtedly locked, but that certainly didn't stop him. With just a twist, the door handle was broken, and Li Luyao walked out in a swagger. There was no one in the corridor, except for the red light flashing above the head. Li Luyao wanted to ask where the kitchen was and where he could find something to eat. Suddenly he heard a scream, and a nurse huddled in the corner with her head in her hands, terrified, shouted, "Don't kill me, don't drink my blood doesn't taste good." Li Luyao glanced at her with disdain and curled his lips, "I'm not a vampire, why should I drink your blood? It's boring, tell me where the kitchen is." "The blood bank is in the basement, not here, the blood bank is." The nurse tilted her head and fainted from fright. Li Luyao complained, "I told you I don't drink blood. I want to go to the kitchen, not to the blood bank." Just as he was talking, Dr. Chen suddenly rushed over from the stairs in a panic, stretched out his hands to block the way, and shouted, "You have indeed become a vampire. You have indeed become a vampire." Calm down quickly, or I will kill you. Call the police. Vampire. What vampire? Li Luyao frowned and said angrily. Isn't there a normal person in your hospital who can understand human speech? I just want to eat. Dr. Chen took out a mirror from his pocket, pointed to the fire window in the corridor, and shouted, look at what you look like now. What if you are not a vampire? You are the one who is abnormal. Ah, Li Luyao walked towards the fire window with hesitation, and through the reflection on the transparent glass, he saw a strange guy. I saw the man in the mirror wearing a tuxedo, with a pale face, 2 black horns on his forehead, fangs coming out of his mouth, and a pair of black wings on his back. He really looked like a real vampire. Why did I become like this? Li Luyao pinched his face to confirm that he was not dreaming, and said angrily, you actually transformed while I was sleeping. This horse riding was a sneak attack. Transform back. Li Luyao used his telekinesis to try to suppress the vampire cells in his body. Instantly, a burst of golden light burst out, and terrifying spiritual energy fluctuations erupted around him. Small, you know how powerful I am. Realizing that the vampire cells were running away in fear, Li Luyao smiled with satisfaction, looked at the mirror again, and the smile on his face immediately solidified. The dark vampire just now has now become a golden vampire. It looks nondescript and seems even uglier. Li Luyao was so angry that he smashed the fire window with his fist, which frightened Dr. Chen in the distance and almost fainted. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have damaged public property. I'll pay for the glass. Li Luyao sighed, forced himself to calm down, and changed his mind and asked, where is the kitchen in your hospital? Dr. Chen said nervously, do you really want to drink blood now? The blood bank is in the basement, not in the kitchen, but I suggest. You'd better not suggest it. Li Luyao interrupted directly, I really don't want to drink blood. I just want to go to the kitchen to cook a bowl of tomato and egg noodles. Can you lead the way? I beg you. Oh, your situation is very serious now. Do you want me to call Rongrong over? Don't. Li Luyao immediately refused. Originally, Rongrong sent him here because he was worried about treating him. Now that he has become like this, wouldn't it scare her too? That's not okay. We'll wait until I'm full. I'll see if I can find a way to change back. I wandered to the kitchen, absent-mindedly cooked myself a bowl of noodles, and ate them tastelessly. Li Luyao found helplessly that although he was hungry, he had no appetite at all. He really wanted to drink a bowl of fragrant blood more than the simple meals and grains in front of him. Well, why don't you take me to the blood bank, or give me a bowl of blood, preferably vampire blood? Based on my many years of experience in treating vampire patients, I suggest you just endure it tonight. Anyway, you will need withdrawal therapy sooner or later. Dr. Chen said seriously, I'm going to give you an injection of sleeping pills right now to make sure you fall asleep. Li Luyao showed his fangs and said impatiently, didn't I tell you that I don't want your advice? Give me a bowl of blood right now. I'm in a very upset mood right now. Don't mess with me. Okay, please don't be impatient. I'll get it for you right now. Dr. Chen stood up and left the house, locked the kitchen with his backhand, and immediately took out his cell phone, intending to call Rongrong. With her many years of medical experience, she could definitely tell that Li Luyao was on the verge of losing control. Before she left, Rongrong told her that if something serious happened, she must be called over as soon as possible, no matter day or night. In this situation, I really have no choice but to. But before she dialed out, she heard a click, and the kitchen door was pushed open from the inside. Li Luyao appeared in front of her like a ghost, stretched out his hand and crushed her phone into pieces. I told you not to tell Rongrong. I'm sorry, I'll accompany you on the phone. Where's the blood? The blood bank is in the basement, right? I'll go there myself. Li Luyao ignored the doctor and walked to the basement. Dr. Chen followed nervously and fearfully, pressing several emergency rescue switches along the way and still trying to stop Li Luyao. I suggest you don't call the police or security guards to come over. It's useless. I just want to drink some vampire blood, and I don't want to bite or eat anyone. This is not too much to ask. Dr. Chen was unsure. You just want to drink vampire blood. That's right. Li Luyao nodded and said seriously. Now my mind is full of images of biting Count Dracula and drinking blood. It's almost like a cigarette addiction. Although I don't smoke, it's almost like this. A feeling. Your request is really unique. Are you sure you don't want to drink human blood, chicken blood, or duck blood? Are you sure you can tell the taste of various bloods? Are you sure you know what you really think? Shut up. If you keep talking like this, I'm going to drink your blood. Dr. Chen trembled and was so frightened that he immediately shut up and stopped talking. There are at least 3 security doors, 10 security guards and 20 alarm devices on the way to the basement blood bank. However, these pose no threat to Li Luyao at all. Any security door is always open in his eyes. The security guards can hardly see their opponents clearly before they are hit to the bottom. As for the alarm devices and the like, just let them go and make a bit of noise. The sound is just right for the occasion and not so boring. The room in the blood bank was so cold that the door opened and a burst of cold air rushed in. Li Luyao felt that there seemed to be the smell of blood in the air, and subconsciously licked his tongue. Looking into the room, he saw more than a dozen white freezers running silently against the wall, with various ABO signs posted outside, which was undoubtedly the target he was looking for. Just as Li Luyao was about to take action, Dr. Chen immediately came over, holding his coat, and stopped him. Don't move, what you want is not here, I will find it for you. Li Luyao took a step back knowingly, and then Dr. Chen took out the key from his arms and came outside an inconspicuous freezer. I have to tell you in advance that there are countless germs in vampire blood. Compared with human blood, it is dirty blood. Are you sure you have to drink it? Stop talking, I've already drunk and gone back to sleep. Dr. Chen is still chattering. There are hundreds of patients in our hospital. For treatment and research needs, part of their blood will be taken away regularly. These dirty blood are highly toxic substances in the eyes of us normal people. If you drink it, there are 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages, but you can't blame me. Disclaimer, right, I understand. Just rest assured that even if I die, I will never turn into a ghost and come to find you. Quote. Dr. Chen suddenly became furious and complained, how could Rongrong have a brother like you? What a ghost. Li Luyao chuckled and said, although I am just Rongrong's younger brother now, I will definitely be Rongrong's boyfriend in the future. We will hold the wedding of the century, have 3 children, and you will sit at the children's table during the banquet. Quote. Dr. Chen was simply confused. What nonsense are you talking about? Are you unconscious? Can you see how many fingers I hold out? Do you still know what 1 + 1 equals? Okay, I'm so annoyed. Li Luyao stopped talking and snatched the blood bag from her hand, hugged it full, turned around and ran away. Dr. Chen said anxiously, where are you going? Li Luyao didn't look back. Go back to your room and sleep. After a while, Li Luyao returned to the room where he was confined while drinking black juice. Vampire blood is different from human blood. This dirty blood has the same color as ink and is thick and sticky. Drinking it in your mouth is like drinking ice in winter, and the taste is not very pleasant. Li Luyao reluctantly drank 2 bags and noticed that the vampire genes in his body had subsided a little. He used his ability to suppress it again, and finally successfully dispersed those hateful black horns, fangs and wings, and regained his body. If I turn into a vampire at night and run away without drinking blood, then I will be no different from a monster. No, I will never allow Rongrong to marry a monster like me. It's better to be a human being. I'm willing to be a bald and caped man for the rest of my life. Li Luyao was lying on the bed thinking about something when he suddenly heard a squeak, and the door was pushed open a small crack from the outside. A timid voice asked, hello, big brother, can you give me some blood? I'm so thirsty right now. Li Luyao followed the sound and saw a pair of bright red pupils peeking out from the crack in the door. He could vaguely see a little girl in red clothes and a red skirt with horns on her head, wings behind her and sharp teeth hiding outside. There is no doubt that she is also a vampire. Drinking blood is wrong, not even for vampires. Didn't the doctor teach you about withdrawal therapy? This thing is like a drug. You have to quit completely before you can be a normal person again. Li Luyao pretended to be a teacher and taught him a lesson righteously and sternly. But, brother, weren't you drinking blood just now? Li Luyao was stunned for a moment and continued to argue, I am an adult and you are a child. Just because adults can drink, does not mean that children can also drink. You have to learn to control yourself. The little girl blinked and said slyly, "Brother, if you are willing to share a bag of blood with me, can I tell you how to escape? I know a secret passage and I guarantee that I can leave here quietly." Quote. Secret passage. Li Luyao's eyes lit up, and he quickly shook his head and said happily, "If I want to go out, I can just leave through the gate. There is no need for a secret passage." The vampire girl looked unbelieving. "You are lying. The security measures of this hospital are on the same level as a prison. If you are locked up here, you will definitely not be able to leave without some special means." Believe it or not, Li Luyao was not interested in quarreling with the little kid and waved his hand. "You can go, brother, I'm going to bed and I don't have time to chat with you. You can come back during the day." The vampire girl hesitated for a while, then suddenly plucked up the courage to open the door and walked in quietly. Li Luyao stared at her, and then he realized that the girl's hands and feet were shackled, and she even had an iron collar with a green light flashing around her neck. At first glance, she was a key monitoring subject of the hospital, and he didn't know who she was. Where did it slip out from? "Brother, just give me a bag of blood. I've been hungry for months." Faced with the little girl's coquettishness, Li Luyao was still heartbroken and asked, "What is your situation? Why are you locked up like this?" The girl shrugged her nose and pretended to be aggrieved. "I was tricked into here. I was detained here for more than half a year. I suffered from hunger and cold every day. I didn't have enough food to eat, and I couldn't wear warm clothes. I was beaten every day. I wasn't beaten. Electric shock is like being imprisoned in water, and I will definitely die here one day." Li Luyao raised his eyebrows slightly, naturally not believing this nonsense at all, and said with a smile, "Don't you know the secret passage? Then why don't you escape?" The girl tugged at her fingers and hesitated. "Of course I want to escape, but every time I escape, I am captured again, and what? Besides, for us vampires, the outside world is more dangerous than the hospital. If you want to survive, it's better to stay here." Quote. Li Luyao finally heard the truth and roughly understood the girl's current situation, so he comforted her. "In that case, you should treat the disease well here, and then go out when you are cured. This blood, etc., can just quit. This thing is not good for you." The girl looked at the blood bag on the bed longingly. Li Luyao quickly put away the things and kicked out the guests again. "Go back, it's getting late." After hearing this, the girl not only refused to leave, but sat down on the bed and said angrily, "I won't leave until you give it to me. It's useless what you say, brother." Ha! Li Luyao was a little annoyed. He wanted to grab her wings and throw her out, but he couldn't bear to do it, so he had to get up and get out of bed. "Okay, then you can sleep here, I'll go out." Li Luyao did what he said, took the blood bag and left. When he was about to go out, he looked back and saw that the girl had actually fallen asleep on his hospital bed. With a satisfied expression, she grabbed the pillow he had slept on and rubbed it against her. "Going back and forth, it seems like I got some great treasure." Li Luyao immediately got goosebumps and cursed, "You must be some kind of pervert. Is there something wrong with your brain?" The girl chuckled and said, "Brother, you smell so good. I have never smelled such a sweet smell. Can I ask which vampire gave you your first embrace?" First love. Li Luyao had never heard of this word, but he subconsciously understood what it meant. First embrace is a special ritual for vampires. It refers to vampires marking humans to declare their right to belong. It is also a way for them to recruit slaves and control humans. A person who has been hugged by a vampire for the first time will not be touched by other vampires again. And those who are embraced for the first time will naturally become vampires. This process is similar to a blood covenant oath, which is an indestructible blood covenant. Li Luyao explained, "I'm sorry, you guessed wrong. I was not hugged by any smelly bat for the first time. I took the initiative to bite open Count Dracula's throat and drank his blood." After hearing this, the girl looked surprised and said to herself, "Is that Count Dracula? I seem to have heard of its name. It is said that it is the descendant of Attila the Hun. The Sylvanian noble lives in a castle in the Carpathian Mountains. Its family has a long history and is one of the many ancestor vampires in Europe. I didn't expect you to drink its blood. Since you are its blood servant, and it will definitely save you." "Yeah," Li Luyao smiled and said, "that stinky bat must be imprisoned in a superpower prison now. It's too late to protect itself. let alone save me. Besides, I don't need it to save me. The girl frowned and jumped up, stared at Li Luyao for a long time, and said mysteriously, "You are really a strange guy. It seems that it is no longer safe here, I have to find a way to leave. I wish you good luck." Quote. The girl's figure disappeared in an instant, and the next moment she appeared at the end of the corridor, playing with the blood bag she snatched from Li Luyao. Her movement speed was as fast as a ghost, not like an unbound person at all. A girl with the power of a chicken. Li Luyao wasn't angry either. He was very happy that this little girl had the ability to protect herself and didn't need to worry about it at all. He asked, "What's your name?" "My name is Lucia Hohenheim. If you are in danger in the future, you can report my name to me. See you soon." After saying that, Lucia turned into a bat and broke through the window, immediately triggering the nearby alarm device and causing a piercing scream. Another strange little guy. Li Luyao shrugged his shoulders. Of course he was not too big a deal to watch this kind of chaos. It had nothing to do with him anyway, so he returned to the hospital bed again and fell asleep comfortably. In the middle of the night, Li Luyao was awakened by a strange sound under the bed. The sound sounded like a rat chewing walnuts, which made me feel uncomfortable. Li Luyao picked up a slipper and leaned over to take a look, only to see that Xiao Haiden had actually stolen his blood bag and was drinking it non-stop. Xiao Haiden has been hiding in his shadow for the past few days without making any movement, but for some reason he suddenly appeared. "What are you doing?" Li Luyao roared. Xiao Haiden was so frightened that his body twisted, and it took him a long time to answer. "Master, I was hungry, so I looked for something to eat. This juice is really terrible, it's like gasoline. What the hell is this? This is dirty blood from vampire patients. I suggest you drink less of it." "Bah, bah, bah." Xiao Haiden vomited several mouthfuls in a row and cursed. "I just said why it tastes so bad. Master, why did you hide this dirty thing under the pillow? Just come to me when you are hungry. Don't steal things like a mouse. Do you understand? Otherwise, I will really slap you to death with a slipper." "I know, master." Li Luyao turned over and planned to continue sleeping, but found that he had no sleep at all and was now very awake. "What time is it now?" 3:45 in the morning, master." "Ah, I had another ordinary day." Li Luyao opened the attribute panel and reviewed his soldiers like a general. Host: Li Luyao. Physique: 5120. Strength: 5892. Shenfa: 3840. Soul: 256. Huijin: 2688. Fortune: 25344. Not bad, he's become stronger again. By tomorrow my physical strength should be over 10,000. Young master, I am so incredibly strong that I have to be treated in a hospital. It's really unreasonable. If I had to change the protagonist, I would already have beautiful women in cars, villas and yachts, 3 wives and 4 concubines, hugging each other and dominating the world. It seems that I am still too salty. I am still single. It's really awesome. Wu Diwen is so shameful. I don't know what Rongrong is doing now, whether she has finished her work, or whether she is thinking about me. And those pig teammates, have they gone back to their respective homes now? That guy Saola didn't even contact me. Why don't you care about my sudden disappearance? Li Luyao closed his eyes and thought about something, suddenly searched his pockets and shouted to Xiao Haiden, "Where is my cell phone?" "Master, your mobile phone and luggage are kept in the hospital storage room. Do you want me to get them for you?" "Okay, bring me your phone and remember to find a charger." "As you command, master." Little Haiden ran away in a flash. Its shadow-like body was not afraid of any obstacles and was very convenient for carrying out various infiltration missions. It seems good to have a little follower. Li Luyao waited for a short while, and Xiao Haiden returned triumphantly, holding the phone in both hands and handing it over. "Well done, go and have a rest. I'll call you if I need anything." Li Luyao praised casually, and Xiao Haiden immediately retracted to the shadow of the corner with satisfaction and disappeared. Turning on the phone, Sao Li's message popped up immediately. "The candidates have all come out. Where are you, Luyao? I'm still waiting for you to have midnight snack. Are you okay? The principal is already counting the people and preparing to return to Yingxuan. What's going on with you, kid? Awesome brother, Teacher Joe actually wants to take you to participate in a secret training. Are you going on a date? I really belong to you. No matter what others think, brother, I will always bless you. You have to seize the opportunity and do it when it's time to do it. As a man, you have to be cruel to yourself. Brother, although I have never been in love, I am still very proficient in love theory. If you don't understand anything, just ask me. I am optimistic about you. We're on our way back. The principal actually didn't let us stay for a day longer. None of us in Yingchuan City were selected for the special recruitment exam. I heard from Teacher Joe that she helped you apply for the qualification for special talents to enter the school, so you don't need to take the college entrance examination later. Is this true or not? Teacher Joe is too obsessed with you. He is envious, jealous, and hateful. Reply a message after the secret training is over. I'm waiting to eat your wedding candy. Li Luyao read this happily and replied casually. After you return to school, prepare for the exam and call me anytime if you need anything. After waiting for a while, Saola didn't reply to the message. He was probably sleeping like a pig at this time, so he clicked on other people's avatars. Shu Ning. Captain Li, I'm going home. I'll bring you some local products next time we meet. My local chicken is delicious. He Rui. Captain, see you again by chance. I'll take you to the aircraft carrier when I get a new rank. I left the motorcycle with Teacher Joe. Remember to pick it up. Ma Xiaoling. Captain, thank you for taking care of me these days. Your magic bread is the best food I have ever eaten in my life. Believe me, you will definitely become a great restorative superpower. Ah Chun, we have a good meeting today, and we are very happy. We will meet again in the world someday, and we will have a drink and have a good time. Let's say goodbye. Mo Wangshu. Li Luyao, just wait for me. I'll look for you as soon as I finish the college entrance examination. It's useless for you to hide anywhere. I've already set my sights on you. Li Luyao smiled and replied to the messages one by one, feeling mixed in his heart. As candidates from all over the country set off to go home, this year's special recruitment examination journey is completely over. Although it was only a few days, he made many friends and experienced all kinds of strange adventures. The door to the new world is gradually opening to him. Superpowers, demon legions, demons, vampires, and alien invasions. All these new things that have never been seen before are clearly appearing in front of him, giving him many completely different perceptions. No. I don't know what other interesting experiences I will have in the future. The journey must have just begun. Li Luyao was reminiscing about the past and thinking about the future, when he suddenly noticed that the window on the balcony disappeared silently, and a gust of night wind blew in, followed by a young man in a suit and leather shoes and a top hat. Hello, little friend, it's very presumptuous of me to visit late at night. I'm looking for a girl named Lucia Hohenheim. Have you seen her? The young man asked Li Luyao politely, with an amiable attitude, but there was a certain well-trained cruelty and sense of superiority hidden in it. Li Luyao glanced at him and asked instead, why are you looking for her? This is not something you should care about. I have my own reasons for looking for her. If you can cooperate, I will be very grateful. Otherwise. Li Luyao didn't even wait for him to finish, he interrupted directly, who are you? The young man took off his top hat, revealing his blonde hair. He bowed like a gentleman and introduced himself. My name is Graham Horton, a sailor on the Dark River and a world-famous S-class superpower. My ability is to speak out. Fa Sui, you have no right to refuse the questions I raised. Believe me, I have no ill will towards you. Underground River, S-class superpower, do you follow your words? Are you talking about crosstalk? Li Luyao sensed the weak spiritual energy fluctuations in the other party's body, so naturally he didn't believe it at all, and complained. He broke into the hospital in the middle of the night and talked nonsense. How can you prove that you are not mentally ill? Why don't you pay me the money for the window first? The blonde man Holden smiled, showing his white teeth, and said with a smile, stupid human being, I forgive your rudeness. I don't have time to chat with children. Now it's your turn to answer my question. Is Lucia here? This. Li Luyao crossed his arms and said rudely, who am I to answer your question? You, a guy with unknown origins, are not a serious person at first glance. Even if I knew Lucia's whereabouts, I would never tell her. You. Very good. Holden frowned slightly, put a finger on his lips, and was about to cast a spell. Suddenly, the door to the ward was pushed open, and a group of armed security guards rushed in and shouted to him, "Put your hands up. Squat down against the wall. Where did you come from, little thief?" Holden smiled instead of getting angry and said calmly, "Shut up and be quiet." As soon as the words fell, more than a dozen security guards shut up at the same time and could no longer make a sound. Holden then said, "Get out." More than a dozen security guards immediately fell to the ground and left the room one by one, rolling like children. Holden suddenly remembered something and said again, "Come back." The security guards came back again, and everyone looked very dull, as if they hadn't woken up. "Forget my appearance, forget my existence. Understand?" The security guards said in unison, "I forgot. I have forgotten. I can't remember anything." "Very good." Holden clapped his hands with satisfaction. "Keep rolling." The security guards came and went like a juggling act, several of them bumped into corners, and with all their strength they managed to roll away and gradually disappeared. Li Luyao was dumbfounded and said in surprise, "You are such a superpower. Is this the strength of an S-class superpower?" Holden pulled a stool and sat down, crossed his legs gracefully, and said proudly, "This is a one-of-a-kind conceptual superpower. It is even rarer than the general special system. It is a rare blessing for you to see it with your own eyes." Quote. Li Luyao said cheerfully, "Do you really mean that no matter what you say, others will do it? If you are so strong, then you are not invincible among invincibles. No one can be your opponent. That's more or less it. Except for a few perverts in the world that I can't control, no one else can resist my ability." Holden chatted for a while and finally turned to the topic. "It's your turn to answer now." Li Luyao interrupted. "Don't worry, come and give me an order. I want to test how strong your ability is." "What a little kid," Holden said helplessly. "Okay. I have never been in the habit of rejecting children." Then, roll around. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Luyao felt his head buzzing, and a strange electric current spread all over his body instantly, and then he rolled on the bed uncontrollably. Moo like a cat. Meow 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 meow. Crunches. Push-up. Plank. Golden rooster independence. Li Luyao kept switching actions under the other party's orders. This feeling was very similar to when he was bewitched by a demon, but it was slightly different and it was difficult to distinguish. "Answer the question, where is Lucia?" Holden asked suddenly, and Li Luyao answered without thinking. "Lucia turned into a bat and left. She is not in the hospital." "Bat, isn't that little girl of werewolf blood?" Holden touched his chin and asked again, "Why is there her smell in your room?" "Because." Halfway through his words, Li Luyao gritted his teeth and tried to refuse to answer. Holden saw his resistance and smiled. "It's useless. The more you refuse, the greater the harm will be to you. This is of no benefit." Li Luyao did not give up. He was very interested in this strange superpower and was also curious about whether he had any means of resistance. He gritted his teeth and did not let go, and soon found that his body was being oppressed and shrouded by an invisible force. Under the huge force, his scalp began to numb, his eyes began to feel dizzy, and his limbs began to tremble slightly. All these symptoms were undoubtedly a refusal to answer. The punishment brought by it requires extremely high resistance to blows, endurance and physical strength to resist it head-on. If it were an ordinary person, even if he didn't speak at this moment, he would probably become incontinent and pass out. But how can Li Luyao be an ordinary person? It's unclear whether he is considered a human being now. This level of mental suppression is nothing to him. If he wants, he can even get angry and beat up the caster with one punch. Soon, a minute passed, and Li Luyao was sweating profusely. 2 minutes later, Li Luyao smiled. 3 minutes later, Li Luyao sat down on the bed, completely releasing the opponent's mental suppression, and said happily, "It seems that your words and tricks are of no use to me. You see, I am completely immune to it now. You're in control." "What?" Holden jumped up from his chair in shock, stretched out his hands at the same time, made a strange handprint, and shouted to Li Luyao, "Answer my question." An invisible mental power hit his face again. Li Luyao fell back as if he had been hit hard. He quickly propped himself up again and grinned, "I won't answer." "What can you do to me?" Veins popped up on Holden's face, and he finally revealed his hidden violence, and said fiercely, "Then go to hell." Li Luyao felt a flash of light before his eyes, and a white skeleton holding a sickle suddenly appeared on the high ceiling, and struck his head with a swift slash. "Boring. I'm teasing you and you're getting serious now, get out of here." Li Luyao disappeared from the spot in an instant, and appeared in front of Holden the next moment, hitting his nose directly with a golden fist. There was a loud, rumbling sound. Holden screamed and flew out of the window, smashing countless windows on the balcony, alarming countless alarm devices, and waking up the sleeping hospital from its dream. The sound of piercing alarms, cracking bones, the sound of firearms being loaded, the sound of footsteps, and the sound of opening and closing doors sounded one after another. After a while, Dr. Chen appeared in the ward wearing pajamas and unkempt hair. Looking at the mess in front of him, he said angrily, "Li Luyao, why is it you again? Can't you just calm down and let me take a nap? If you continue to make trouble like this, I will call Rongrong at dawn and ask her to take you away. No, I will expel you from the hospital now. No, this really has nothing to do with me. Please listen to my explanation." Seeing that Dr. Chen was about to lose control and run away, Li Luyao quickly argued, "A thief entered the hospital just now, and I managed to beat him away. If you don't believe me, watch the surveillance." Dr. Chen didn't listen at all and said angrily, "You have caused so much trouble just one day after coming to the hospital. Our ruined temple cannot afford to support a bodhisattva like you. Let's go, let's call a taxi for you now." Dr. Chen borrowed a mobile phone and was about to call Rongrong. Halfway through pressing the number, a nurse suddenly ran over and shouted, "Dean, it's bad. Lucia is missing. Lucia is missing." Dr. Chen was so frightened that his hands shook, and the mobile phone he had not held tightly fell out. Fortunately, Li Luyao had quick eyesight and picked it up directly, otherwise the maintenance fee of the mobile phone would have to be charged to him again. "Don't make any noise for now, I'll go check the surveillance." Dr. Chen left as quickly as he came. He was anxious and scared, and he had no sleep at all. She went to the ward and took a look around, and sure enough, Lucia broke free from the chains and disappeared. Fortunately, there are high-definition cameras everywhere in this hospital, and any personnel activities will be recorded 24 hours a day. She successfully found some clues in the surveillance video and saw Lucia sneaking out of the room and wandering around the hospital like a drifter. Lucia went to the top floor, to the blood bank, to the kitchen, and finally came to Li Luyao's room. It was pitch dark inside, and the camera was artificially damaged and lost the signal. Then she saw Lucia transforming into a bat destroyer outside the corridor. He jumped out of the window and escaped from the hospital. "Li Luyao, it's Li Luyao again." Dr. Chen was so angry that he stamped his feet. He didn't expect that this prison break incident had anything to do with him. God knows what this guy said to Lucia. To lure the little girl out of here is a heinous crime and unforgivable. When Dr. Chen angrily returned to the intensive care unit, Li Luyao was lying on the bed playing with his mobile phone, as if it had nothing to do with him, which made her angry again. "Li Luyao, what on earth did you say to Lucia? Why did she run away after seeing you? Are you here to treat illnesses, or are you here to cause trouble?" Facing Dr. Chen's questioning, Li Luyao also looked confused and said helplessly, "I really didn't do anything. That little girl came to me and asked for a blood bag, but I didn't give it to her, so she ran away. This can't be left to chance. On me. Blood bag, blood bag, blood bag. If you hadn't gone crazy in the middle of the night and insisted on drinking blood, how could she have found you, and it wasn't because of you. It's over now, it's over completely. I really am." The more Dr. Chen talked, the angrier he became, and he even started to cry anxiously as he spoke. The doctor, who was upright, cold and serious during the day, actually cried inexplicably on the spot. Li Luyao was confused with questions on his face, and said soothingly, "Isn't it just a patient who escaped? Why are you so anxious? Can't you just send someone to capture her later? That little girl can't run far. Maybe someone has called the police now, please calm down first." Quote, calm down, how can you tell me to calm down?" Dr. Chen covered his face with his hands and said angrily, "Lucia's identity is so special. I don't know how many people have harmed her. I promised at the beginning that I would protect her no matter what, so she agreed to cooperate with our vampire vaccine research, but now. Li Luyao asked curiously, isn't that little girl a vampire? Is she very special? She is not an ordinary vampire. She is the descendant of a vampire and a werewolf, with a rare double bloodline from ancient mythology. The blood in her body can help us overcome the problem of vampire viruses. She escaped all the way from Europe, and she has no experience. How many times have she been rounded up and assassinated? She finally applied for political asylum in our country, and now we are the only ones who can protect her. Quote. Li Luyao scratched his head and said with an embarrassed smile, it turns out that this girl has such a strange origin. If I had known, I would have chatted with her more. Okay, it's my fault for not stopping her. I'll help you find her. Come to the head office. Dr. Chen stopped crying and said unsurely, can you find her? You didn't lie to me. What's the benefit of lying to you? She is a vampire, and I am also a vampire, half a vampire. In short, I am very familiar with the fluctuations of spiritual energy on her body. I will go outside to look around. If she has not run far away, at dawn maybe we could bring her back before. Dr. Chen thought for a while and suddenly narrowed his eyes. You kid, don't you want to take the opportunity to escape? When Rongrong asks, I won't be able to handle it. Li Luyao said happily. If I really wanted to leave, I would have left openly. I wouldn't have the time to chat with you here. If you had some confidence in me, this matter would have been easily solved long ago. I don't have the slightest confidence in you. Dr. Chen wiped away his tears, put on a cold expression again, and ordered, before it's too late, take someone out to look for him. Li Luyao waved his hand. You don't need to bring anyone with you, I can do it alone. Well, can you step aside so I can put on my pants and get up? Give me some snacks, don't waste time. Dr. Chen closed the door and went out. Li Luyao confirmed that the doctor was far away, and then summoned his helper. Come out, little Haydn, there is work to do. Little Haydn inquired and poked his head out from the shadow of the corner. Master, I'm here. Little Haydn is always ready to be called. Li Luyao smiled with satisfaction and said, well, not bad. You have seen the vampire girl Lucia, right? Now go look outside and bring her back. If you complete the task before dawn, I can reward you with a piece of magic bread. Quote. Master, can you reward Xiao He Tan with a magic core? Xiao He Tan likes to eat magic cores the most. Li Luyao remembered that he still had a bunch of magic cores given by Ah Chun in his school bag. It was useless to keep them anyway, so he agreed generously. Okay, no problem, you can go and come back as soon as possible. As you command, Master. Xiao Haydn ran away quickly, his shadow-like body streaked across the ceiling, and slipped out through the broken balcony window. When everything was ready, Li Luyao got dressed and got up, slowly opening the door. Outside the corridor, Dr. Chen was giving orders to the security guards and arranging the direction of the search. When he saw Li Luyao approaching, he immediately asked, where are you going to look for him? Li Luyao deliberately kept things secret. This Jinling city is so big, who knows where that little girl will be hiding. I'll try my luck by walking around. Dr. Chen rarely relaxed his tone, almost pleading, if you can find Lucia, please bring her back. Lucia has many enemies outside, and many demon hunters and terrorist organizations are watching her. Her life will be in danger at any time. I leave this matter to you, I will remember this favor for the rest of my life. Seeing that Dr. Chen was so solemn about his work, Li Luyao finally became more serious and responded, don't worry about me doing the work. I will bring you good news before dawn. Goodbye. Li Luyao turned around and left. Dr. Chen shouted behind him, you have to be careful yourself. The enemy is more dangerous than you think. You alone are no match for them. I know. Li Luyao waved his hand and left the hospital through the main entrance. As I walked, I thought to myself that it would be best to have as many enemies as possible and as strong as possible, otherwise it would be boring to fight. Give me some powerful roles. Preferably someone with superpowers above S level. Chapter 91. After leaving the hospital, Li Luyao was not in a hurry to find anyone. Firstly, there is a little Haydn saddle running errands for him, and secondly, his spiritual perception automatically detects a radius of several hundred meters. If there is really any movement in Lucia, he will naturally know it. The most urgent thing is to find something to eat first. It's 4 o'clock in the morning now. I don't know if the breakfast restaurant is open. If that doesn't work, there's a late-night restaurant. He's not picky about food at all. Coming out of the park, along the way I met a lot of old men and women who got up early to exercise. They were doing Tai Chi, jogging, bumping into trees, and beating themselves up like crazy. There were all kinds of things. Li Luyao asked the old man who hit the tree for directions, and successfully came out of the north gate of the park and found a steaming bun shop. "Boss, give me 5 of each type of buns." The boss, who was busy looking at him, looked at him strangely and asked, "I have more than 10 kinds of steamed buns. Are you sure you want 5 of each? Have you finished eating them?" Li Luyao laughed and said, "I'm so hungry now that I can eat an elephant." The boss didn't ask any more questions, and while packing the guests, he whispered to himself, "It's really weird. Someone just bought 100 buns in one go, and now there's another weirdo. What's going on in the park today? Is it a team-building activity? I haven't heard about it." The boss muttered in a very low voice, but Li Luyao still heard him, so he asked casually, "Boss, did you see the customer you just said bought 100 buns? Which way did he go?" "Gone. He was a young man wearing a suit early in the morning. I didn't take a close look at what he looked like. He went to the East Alley entrance." "What, do you know him?" "Yes, we have an appointment for a boxing match today, thank you." Li Luyao picked up the buns and left. The boss shouted, "You haven't paid yet." "Well, I'm sorry, I almost forgot." Li Luyao ate one bun at a time like crazy and took out his mobile phone to scan the QR code to pay. He walked a little further in the direction instructed by his boss, and immediately felt a familiar aura. Lucia's aura was surrounded by a group of powerful and unfamiliar spiritual energy fluctuations. It seemed that he was in trouble, but fortunately there was no fight yet. Li Luyao quickened his pace, and after a while, he stopped outside a breakfast shop. The wooden signboard said Jinling time-honored duck blood vermicelli soup. The store is very small, with only 4 or 5 rows of seats in the lobby, but it is actually densely packed with people at this moment. In the middle position, Lucia is holding a steaming bowl of vermicelli soup, with various dumplings, soup dumplings, pot stickers, and sweet-scented osmanthus glutinous rice balls placed next to her, enjoying the food as if no one else is watching. Around her, there was a row of middle-aged men in suits and sunglasses on the left, and on the right were a group of gangsters wearing t-shirts and pants with big gold chains. In front of her sat an old man who looked like a beggar, and behind him were a pair of twin sisters. Everyone exudes powerful spiritual power fluctuations. The colors of those spiritual powers include black, white, good and evil. Among them, the weakest ones are at least A-level superpowers. As for what kind of strength the strongest one is, it is still unclear for the time being. Unfathomable. Li Luyao swaggered into the store, sat down opposite Lucia, and asked, "Is it delicious?" Lucia concentrated on eating without even looking up at him, and stammered, "Okay, delicious, I've never had such a great breakfast." "That's good. Follow me back to the hospital after eating. Dr. Chen can't find you and is crying." Lucia didn't speak, but looked around, as if to say that these people would not let them go home easily. Li Luyao understood what she meant and was not in a hurry to attack. He planned to have a good meal first. He stood up and walked to the counter and shouted, "Boss, bring me a bowl of duck blood vermicelli soup. I want a big bowl and 2 fried dough sticks." No one answered behind the counter, nor in the kitchen. Li Luyao called out again, but still didn't see the boss. Suddenly, someone behind him smiled sinisterly and said, "Stop shouting, starting from today, this place will be closed." Closing business. Why? Li Luyao had a bad premonition in his heart. He broke into the kitchen and saw the gray-haired boss and his wife lying in a pool of blood, in critical condition. Li Luyao was startled, and immediately rushed to check their injuries. He saw that both old men had their heads smashed, suffered severe blood loss, and might die at any time. Call 120 emergency number. Call the police. No, this is too slow. By the time the medical staff come to the door, the 2 elderly people will be dead. Without any time to think about it, Li Luyao directly used the Blood Clan Covenant to summon Xiao Haiden. Now he can only rely on it to take the patient to the hospital. Xiao Haiden received the call and came quickly from a distance. Li Luyao took a long breath, returned to the hall from the kitchen, glanced at everyone present, and cursed. What the hell, you actually attacked 2 old people, you are still not human. Who the hell did it? I have to stand up for myself, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Li Luyao used indiscriminate attacks, making everyone present look unhappy. Finally, a bald man wearing a big gold chain slapped the table and stood up, showing off the exaggerated muscles on his arms, and said with a ferocious smile, "Those 2 old immortals are very annoying, what's wrong with me giving them a long memory? You brat, if you don't want to die, get out of here, or I'll take care of you too." It's you, right, very good, very good. Li Luyao slowly walked towards the bald man, rolling up his sleeves as he walked, staring at him and all the companions around him. Court death. The bald man roared and punched. The force was so strong that before the punch came, the fierce wind was blowing so hard that people could not open their eyes. Li Luyao sneered coldly, with no intention of evading at all. He just raised his left hand casually, opened his big hand, and easily grasped the opponent's fist. This is the last time you punch in your life. From now on, you are no longer qualified to punch anyone. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Luyao twisted hard and broke the opponent's wrist. Then he struck with an elbow and lifted his vaginal leg, destroying the bald man's arm and lifeblood at the same time. I'm a fool, I'm a fool. Brothers, chop him to death. The bald man shouted for help, and the 7 or 8 gangsters around him rushed forward at the same time, holding steel pipes, wrenches, and spring knives in their hands. They were obviously about to kill him. Facing these people with enhanced abilities, Li Luyao was not afraid at all. His current body strength is completely crushing for ordinary people, and it is impossible for those swords, guns and sticks to hurt him even a hair. He intended to teach these fools a lesson, so he showed no mercy and beat them to death. As his figure flashed, countless wailing sounds resounded throughout the hall. Some people have broken arms, some people are blind, some people have lame legs, and some people have lost their ears. Seeing that if the fight continued, someone would definitely die, a familiar voice suddenly came from outside the store. It's so lively this early in the morning. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Everyone must be here, so let me, Holden, end this farce. The door opened, and a blond man jumped in. It was Holden, who had been beaten once by Li Luyao. He had a band-aid on his nose and a pair of panda eyes on his face. He glanced across the crowd and spotted Li Luyao. He was immediately stunned and said angrily, "Why are you here, kid?" Li Luyao was carrying a bald man and beating him up. When he saw Holden, he couldn't help but smile and said happily, "It's true that enemies don't get together. It seems that we are quite destined. Please wait, I'll finish cleaning up first. These guys." Holden watched the big man being beaten into a human shape, and asked curiously, "How much hatred is this, you beat them to death?" Li Luyao reached out and pointed toward the kitchen. "You'll know just by looking at it." Holden went to the kitchen to take a look as if he was watching the fun, and immediately rushed back angrily, cursing as he walked, "It's so unreasonable. These beasts actually attacked 2 old people. You fool, go away and let me teach them a lesson." After saying that, he didn't care whether Li Luyao agreed or refused. He rushed over and punched and kicked him, and hit several pig heads. Li Luyao saw that he was fighting more and more energetically, and that he was more concerned than himself. He quickly reminded, "Stop fighting, it's more important to save people now." "Yes." Holden stopped, straightened his tie, and ordered to the bald leader, "All the people leading you will kowtow 100 times on the ground and apologize to the 2 old men." With their words and actions, these gangsters had no ability to resist and immediately knelt in a row on the ground, kowtowing and apologizing loudly. Li Luyao said speechlessly, "The 2 old people are unconscious now. Their apology is of no use. Send them to the hospital quickly." "You were right." Holden issued the order again. "Send these 2 old men to the hospital, immediately." The gangsters took orders again, scrambled to pick up the 2 old men and ran out of the store. Li Luyao was still uneasy and asked loudly, "Do they know where the hospital is?" "The nearest hospital is in the park. Let them take people to find Dr. Chen." Holden nodded. "Don't worry, I've told them the location. They can get to the hospital within 10 minutes. "That's good." After a troublesome matter was solved, Li Luyao finally breathed a sigh of relief, went to the refrigerator to get a bottle of Coke, and drank it. Holden was very happy to see Li Luyao temporarily withdrawing from the show. He looked at the other people in the room and said with interest, "Demons, demon hunters, agents, wild superpowers, you guys have pretty good intelligence skills, but you are so good at it. I'll get the news soon and get here." An old man sitting in the corner stood up and asked, "If I guessed correctly, are you a person sent by Anhe?" Holden puffed up his chest and introduced himself triumphantly. "Yes, my name is Graham Holden, a sailor on the Dark River and a world-famous S-class superpower. My ability is to follow my words. If you know what's going on, it's best to leave immediately, otherwise it won't look good if a fight breaks out." The old man smiled bitterly and said, "Since everyone from Anhe is here, I will not interfere in this matter and say goodbye." After that, he quickly left the shop. He could easily scare his competitors away with just a self-introduction. This move of defeating others without a fight is really impressive. Holden was so happy that he almost smiled crookedly. He smiled at the row of middle-aged people in suits and ties on the left and said, "It's your turn. Friends from the CIA, please come back." The leading man took off his sunglasses, revealing an Asian face. Sure enough, he was not Chinese. He sat upright, put his hands on his knees, and said calmly, "I am sorry that I cannot obey my order. Our purpose of sneaking into the Chinese territory this time is to rescue Princess Lucia. We will never leave until the mission is completed." "Oh, really?" The smile on Holden's face suddenly froze, and he shouted in a cold voice, "Get out." The sound was not loud, but it contained terrifying spiritual pressure. Anyone with a weak mental strength would immediately be shaken and would have to obey the order involuntarily. Li Luyao burped to disperse the spiritual energy fluctuations that filled the air in front of him. Two of the CIA people were weak and rolled out of the store while lying on the ground. 5 people were sweating profusely and were fighting against the invisible wave. In the confrontation between forces, only the middle-aged man at the head remained motionless and seemed not to be affected at all. "You are worthy of being an S-class expert in the Dark River. If you can come to the CIA with your shocking ability, it will be reused. I really don't understand why you are willing to be a dog in the Dark River. Don't you think this is a pity? Is it done?" The middle-aged man said something sinister and stared at Holden, full of provocation. Unexpectedly, Holden was not very angry when he heard this. He shrugged and said, "If I were willing to work for the organization, I would be the head of MI7 now. It would be no longer your turn to make noises here. I am a person who has been unruly all my life. If you love freedom, there's no way you can tie me up, so just give up." The middle-aged man smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. After I capture you, I will find a way to train you and make you an obedient baby. Speaking of which, I am really lucky this time in China. Not only did I successfully find Lucia Princess, I can still pick up your trump card, I." Halfway through his words, he suddenly burst out in anger. His whole head turned into an octopus head, his arms burst through his sleeves and turned into countless octopus tentacles, which struck out like lightning, binding Holden tightly in just an instant. "Smelly octopus, let me go. Let go. Stop." Holden cursed loudly, kept using mental attacks, and issued various instructions to him. The middle-aged man laughed loudly and said, "Your ability is invincible at the same level, and it is even more effective against low-level superpowers. But don't you see that my strength is far above yours? I am an SS-level animal type. Able man, why do you fight with me? I hate your ancestors, I hate you immortals, what are you so proud of about that stinky octopus? Ouch. Wei Ji, come in quickly, I'm going to die." Holden cursed and called for help, without the slightest hint of gentlemanliness. In the chaos, there was only a bang sound, the door turned into countless pieces and scattered in the air, and a man wearing a white shirt walked into the store. He has an ordinary appearance, with messy hair, and a thin and shriveled figure. He looks listless, as if he has been malnourished for a long time. He looked at the middle-aged man, then at Holden, and finally said a word slowly, distorted. As soon as the words fell, the octopus tentacles that tied Holden began to twist immediately. Those slippery tentacles covered with suckers were intertwined, squirming and entangled crazily, each of them exerting their full strength to squeeze out every drop of ink in the other's body. "Ah!" The middle-aged man let out a cry of pain, flew backwards, and hit the wall hard. But even so, the twisted will still did not stop. His hands, shoulders, neck, head, and even his entire body were visibly twisted into a mess, and he would soon turn into a human stick. Spare me, I surrender, help, I. Facing the middle-aged man's begging for mercy, Wei Ji said expressionlessly, those who dare to touch the underground river, you should have known what will happen. Report it to the Lord of Hell, and say that the world is not worth it. He held his right hand empty and was planning to kill this person directly. Li Luyao, who was watching the whole audience, suddenly stood up and shouted, leave him alone, I have to hand this agent over to the police. After saying that, he showed his starry eyes to Wei Ji and asked excitedly, brother, you are so awesome. Are you also a conceptual ability user? Wei Ji ignored the question. Pig teammate Holden immediately responded, you are wrong. He is not a conceptual superpower. He is actually a space superpower. His abilities are. Shut up. Wei Ji glared at him fiercely and said angrily, is there something wrong with your head? You don't even have to tell yourself your family name every day, but you also have to leak out my background, for fear that others won't know, right? Holden laughed, not taking this kind of thing to heart at all, and said casually, oh, so what if you know, I can use my power to make them all forget. Don't you think it's great to be a frank superpower? Well, if there could be more trust between people and less intrigue and guessing, the world would definitely. Stop talking nonsense and shut up. Wei Ziwu interrupted Holden's rhetoric, looked at Li Luyao, and asked, do you want this smelly octopus? Li Luyao nodded. That's right. I can give it to you if you want it, but the price is not cheap. There are 8 agents here, each with a life of 3 million, a total of 24 million, not even a penny less. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Li Luyao was simply stunned. You are selling these people as pigs. Even pigs made of gold are not so expensive. Can they be cheaper? Wei Ji said coldly. If you can't afford it, then I will kill it directly. I don't like to bargain with others. Etc. Seeing that he was about to take action again, Li Luyao quickly used a delaying strategy. I want these people, don't kill them. Wei Ji stretched out his big hand. Then give me the money. Give the money with one hand and the person with the other. Li Luyao scratched his head, wondering, can I owe it first? Roll. Wei Ji was a little angry and waved his hand suddenly. All 8 CIA agents in the store were hung upside down by an invisible rope. The situation was indeed no different from selling piglets. Awesome, man. Li Luyao was always interested in strong people and asked curiously, are you also an S-class superpower? Wei Ji ignored him, and Holden on the side responded again, you were wrong again, Boss Wei is an SS-level superpower. Brat, if you want to cause trouble for him, you are asking for death. I advise you to take it easy. Li Luyao became even more excited when he heard this. He's actually an SS-level warrior. How much stronger is he than you? Holden said solemnly. 100 of me are no match for him. Li Luyao was not satisfied with this answer and complained, you are too weak to be a unit of measurement. 100 of you really won't be much stronger. Quote. Holden was so angry that he immediately rolled up his sleeves. You brat, don't think that you can show off your power just by being lucky enough to defeat me once. I have to take care of you today. Come on, I'm still afraid of you. When the 2 children were arguing, Wei Ji had already come to Lucia's side and asked the twins wearing cheongsams nearby, aren't you leaving yet? The twins stood up, bowed to Wei Ji, and said in unison, Mr. Wei, our sisters are here specifically to see you. We hope to join the Dark River. Wei Ji frowned slightly and said straight to the point, what are your abilities? My superpower is mind reading, and my sister's superpower is charm. We are good at collecting intelligence and bewitching men. If we can join the Dark River, we will definitely be able to help the organization. Wei Ji didn't wait for her to finish, but interrupted directly, too weak, Dark River doesn't need weak people. Come to me when you advance for the 2nd time and become an S-level ability user. Mr. Wei, we are really capable and useful. Please consider it. Get out. I don't want to say it a 2nd time. The twin sisters sighed and immediately left in despair. Before leaving, they thrust a business card into Holden's hand and gave him a meaningful look. Li Luyao took the opportunity to ask, what is the origin of your underground river? It sounds pretty powerful. Holden put the business card away, thinking that there might be a romantic encounter tonight. He couldn't help but feel in a good mood, and said with a smile, "Our Dark River is the world's #1 superpower organization, and its members are all S-class strong men, so just sign up. Those names are all famous figures who dominate the country, but you kid doesn't even know this, your knowledge is too shallow." The world's #1 superpower organization? Li Luyao asked again. Then which country are you from? We do not belong to any country and are not bound by any government. We are rangers, assassins, freedom knights and bards. Don't compare those domesticated superpowers with us. Wei Ji in the distance suddenly said, "Stop talking nonsense to irrelevant people and send him away quickly." Ah, this. Holden looked embarrassed. Boss Wei, this guy is immune to my abilities, there's nothing I can do against him. Wei Ji turned around and took a serious look at the kid in front of him for the first time. Li Luyao was wearing a sweatshirt and school uniform. He looked young and had a reserved aura. He really didn't look like a strong man. Holden's ability to speak is a completely dimensionally reducing blow to ordinary people. If he is really immune, it can only be due to the incompatibility of attributes. Wei Ji didn't think much and asked directly, "What type of ability are you?" Li Luyao told the truth. "Strengthen the system." Strengthening system. Wei Ji felt that he was being fooled again, and immediately made a serious face. "How dare you say that you are an enhanced type with your figure? That's all, I have no interest in you, so get out of here, this is not the place you should be." Oh, Li Luyao didn't want to stay any longer, so he came directly to Lucia and grabbed her arm. "Let's go, it's time to go home." Lucia stood up obediently, and Wei Ji's expression became even uglier. "You can leave, but Lucia can't, keep her." Li Luyao was not afraid at all. He had already guessed the purpose of their trip and asked with a smile, "Why?" "I'm better than you." Wei Ji stared at him fiercely. The spiritual power fluctuations on his body were like layers of haze-colored clouds, almost filling the entire hall. Holden also advised, "Little brat, don't make Boss Wei angry. Our underground river has received a commission to bring Princess Lucia back to Europe, please let her go as soon as possible." Li Luyao rarely said seriously, "You want to take her away, have you ever asked her if she agrees? This is China, not a lawless place. You must act according to the rules." Rules? Interesting. A cruel smile appeared on Wei Ji's face. He looked down at Li Luyao and said coldly, "I can't control life. I can't control death. But I can control between life and death. I'm better than you, that's it. The supreme rule." Li Luyao said impatiently, "Another guy who respects the strong. He's so boring." Then he asked Lucia, "Do you want to go with them? Or come back to the hospital with me? Don't worry, Dr. Chen and I will risk our lives to keep you safe." Lucia had long since returned from vampire form to human form. She was now wearing a red dress, red hair, and a red dress, with some freckles on her face. She looked like she was only 13 or 14 years old, so she was indeed a little girl. She stuffed a piece of beef pot sticker in her mouth. After hearing Li Luyao's question, she carefully finished the pot sticker before replying, "I don't want to go back to Europe with them, and I don't want to go back to the hospital with you." Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Li Luyao was a little confused. "Then what do you want to do?" Lucia said seriously, "I want to go out alone in the world and travel everywhere with my sword. Don't bother me." Ha! Li Luyao was happy and said to Wei Ji, "Did you hear that? This girl wants to go out alone in the world, so don't make any decisions about her. We have to respect her own opinions." Wei Ji sneered and said, "The child's ideas have no reference value. I have her father's power of attorney here. I have the right to use the Hohenheim family rules to take her away by force." Lucia retorted loudly, "I have severed ties with my family a long time ago. Don't mention any family rules to me. It's useless. They drove me away in the first place and now they want me to go back. Why should I listen to them?" Wei Ji reluctantly comforted him, "Your father is critically ill now and may die at any time. Of course he wants you to go back because he wants to pass on the title of head of the family to you. Don't you understand this?" Lucia became even more angry after hearing this. "I have 7 brothers and 11 sisters, so it is not my turn to inherit the position of head of the family. If I really go back, they will definitely tear them into pieces. You won't be fooled. You do have many brothers and sisters, but they are just mediocre people. You have the blood of a vampire and a werewolf, and you are destined to be the best heir to the Hohenheim family and the Corvinus family. Only you inherit the position of the patriarch. Only by convincing the public, otherwise God knows what they will do. I told you that family matters have nothing to do with me. Stop annoying me. Lucia's face turned red with anxiety and she immediately got up and walked out. Wei Ji waved his hand, and an invisible barrier instantly blocked the way. Just hearing a bang sound, Lucia hit her head at the door, covered her head and shouted angrily, "If you want to harass me again, I will call the police. This is China, not desperados like you. A place to run wild." "Oh, really?" Wei Ziyu said with a smile. "We people in Anhe ignore the law and discipline for a day or two. No government laws can restrain us. We are the freest people in the world, and even the Chinese state does not dare to fight with us. I'm an enemy. Why don't you call the police and see if the police dare to take action against me?" What a loud tone. Li Luyao took a step forward and said sarcastically, "Your arrogant skills are really the legendary SS level. Even I have to be inferior to you." Wei Ji stared into his eyes with displeasure on his face. "Are you looking for death?" Li Luyao was equally rude. "Are you sure you have the ability to kill me? Hey, if you have something to talk about, please don't take action if you disagree. Let's get out. Stand aside." Holden, who stepped forward to break up the fight, was scolded and immediately retreated to the corner and stopped talking. Wei Ji knew in his heart that if he wanted to take Lucia away, he must first deal with the guy in front of him. If the mission requires it, he doesn't mind going on a killing spree, although he still can't figure out the true nature of this kid. He's not sure whether Li Luyao is a brainless young man or if he really has some special abilities. Distortion. Wei Ji was the first to make the move. He held his hands in the air, and the entire hall began to shake violently. The tables, chairs and benches in the store were twisted and deformed, turning into a mess. Li Luyao, who was inside, was also affected by this power. He felt the pressure of psychic energy from all directions and was very sure that Wei Ji was not a conceptual ability user like Holden, but had some more peculiar power. He forcibly suppressed the impulse to twist his body and limbs, but the clothes and pants on his body refused to obey his orders and quickly woven into a ball to tie him up, making him unable to move. When ordinary superpowers fight, if they can know the opponent's specific abilities in advance, they can often gain a huge advantage. If you can't figure out the opponent's trump card from the beginning to the end, you will be very easy to fall into passivity, and you may not even know how you died. Li Luyao was deeply trapped in this dilemma at the moment. Wei Ji's ability was very weird. He seemed to be able to control everyone and everything in the hall, but it was completely unclear what method he used. This ability is not magic, nor is it the ability to speak, nor is it ordinary mind control. Holden said before that Wei Ji is a space system user, but in Li Luyao's understanding, the concept of space basically belongs to auxiliary skills such as personal teleportation, group teleportation, space travel, and teleportation. He has never heard of anyone. You can kill people with your spatial abilities. Kid, don't hold on. If you hold on any longer, you will be torn into pieces by 5 horses. Surrender quickly. Holden, a melon eater, kindly reminded him, and then there was a sound of cracking silk, and Li Luyao's clothes shredded into strips of cloth, revealing the spasming muscles underneath. Li Luyao smiled and said, "Thank you, but this level of attack is useless to me. I'm fine." Li Luyao was telling the truth. Although he looked embarrassed now, as long as he could restrain the urge to twist his body, there would be no fear for his life. What concerned him was the dangers that were invisible to the naked eye. He could clearly feel that the air nearby was becoming thinner, and there seemed to be invisible walls squeezing towards him around him. The invisible force was so heavy that he couldn't breathe. Come on, the consequences of being distracted for a moment are disastrous. Kid, you are indeed capable of persisting for so long. But you should also see that our strength is not at the same level at all. Why do you bother to humiliate yourself? Li Luyao couldn't figure it out, so he simply asked, "Your uncle, what is this ghost ability of yours?" Wei Ji laughed loudly and did not answer. He suddenly snapped his fingers and shouted, "Room." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Luyao's body immediately floated into the air. After a dizzy roll, he was hung upside down in the air, completely being manipulated in the palm of his hand. Seeing that the situation was extremely passive, Li Luyao's mind became calmer than before. With his brain running rapidly, an answer was ready to come out. Room, guest room, space. You are a person with space abilities. Maybe you can actually create space and destroy space. The distortion, invisible wall, hanging man, and room are all just tricks you use to manipulate space, I said. That's right. It's interesting. I thought you were a fool who didn't know how to live or die, but I didn't expect you still had some brains. Wei Ji gave an ambiguous answer and did not admit it directly. Li Luyao asked again, you are just a magician who plays tricks with space. Am I right? Wei Ji still said cautiously, I have no obligation to answer your question. Only the stupidest superpowers will make their trump cards public. Of course, you can guess whatever you want and think whatever you want. It's up to you. View authority. As he spoke, he held his head high and said confidently, but having said that, it doesn't matter if you guess it right. The second advancement of space ability users is more unpredictable than most other abilities. Even if you can see it clearly, is there a way to crack the doorway? Li Luyao was also laughing louder than the other person. There is no perfect ability in this world. Any superpower has its weaknesses. How do you know that I can't crack it? Wei Ji narrowed his eyes. Then you try. Li Luyao was not in a hurry to take action and continued to attack with words, I guess I'm right. All of you conceptual, rule, and space ability users are like crispy mages. You have high attack and low defense. As long as you are defeated by the opponent, if you get close, you won't be able to fight back, am I right? Wei Ji said impatiently. We are in a duel now, not doing questions in the classroom. This theoretical restraint relationship is meaningless. If you have the ability to take a closer look, I have 100 ways to kill you. Quote. Really? Then look what's behind you. Li Luyao kindly reminded Wei Ji that he felt a chill in his heart and turned around suddenly, only to see a black shadow rising from the ground at some point and wrapping around him from head to toe. The bulge at the front of the shadow turned into an arm, holding a bright sharp knife against his back. Kid, you're cheating, right? If you can't beat me, why don't you call for help? Wei Ji was very angry. Firstly, he was angry that his opponent was playing a sneak attack, and secondly, he was angry that he did not notice the fluctuation of spiritual power at all, so he was blocked by the assassin at close range. Li Luyao pretended to be mysterious and said, to be honest, I am a legendary dual system ability user. In addition to the enhancement system, I also have a rare special ability. Wei Ji calmly looked at the black shadow on his body and asked in a muffled voice, what ability is it? Li Luyao laughed. How can I tell you this trick so easily? Didn't you say that only the stupidest superpowers would reveal their trump cards to the public? Why don't you take a guess too? Okay, I guess you are a hammer, go to hell. Wei Ji burst into action, and the space around him began to distort violently. There seemed to be countless spaces overlapping, colliding, breaking and reorganizing. Everything happened in an instant, until slight cracks appeared in time and space, and even the flow of time was slowed down. There was a pause of sorts. The violent vibrations in the space produced a series of wonderful reactions. The sound of lightning, the sound of shattering glass, and the harsh sound of friction kept ringing. Sparks and bubbles appeared one after another in the air. The room was filled with the smell of something burning. If one's perception was slightly weaker, can't even see clearly the existence of these movements. Such a terrifying trick is enough to turn everything into dust. However, the black shadow is like a loach traveling through various visible and invisible spaces, existing or non-existing. No matter how everything rises and falls, it can always find a safe passage. Running back and forth, it landed accurately on Wei Ji and blocked his life gate. Give me a twist. Broken for me. Disappear. Die. Wei Ji tried his best and launched various special moves. After a while, he was panting and sweating profusely, but the black shadow wrapped around his body was not harmed at all. Li Luyao noticed that his spiritual power began to weaken and guessed that this kind of space spell was very draining on the human body. Sure enough, his body suddenly relaxed, and the alien space that had previously trapped him suddenly disappeared. Li Luyao fell from the sky, did a 360-degree backflip, landed gracefully on the ground, and gave a thumbs up to Xiao Haiden. Wei Ji bent over and panted, "Little devil, what is the origin of this shadow of yours? I have never seen such a strange ability." Ha 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 ha. Li Luyao didn't intend to tell him, and continued to keep it secret, "Just keep guessing. If you guess it right, I will tell you." Then he looked at his phone and asked with a smile, "The police will arrive here in 3 minutes. Do you want to go to jail or stay here to play with me?" As soon as he finished speaking, an alarm sounded outside the door. Wei Ji glared at him fiercely and said unconvinced, "Kid, just follow me and see, and he will not let you go." Li Luyao said happily, "I have to thank you. Thank you for capturing the 8 agents. I will accept this gift without ceremony." Li Luyao's words reminded Wei Ji, who quickly entered businessman mode and said seriously, 8 agents, each agent has 3 million, a total of 24 million. I will keep this account in your head first. Come on, Holden, let's go. Horton, a melon eater, was confused. "Boss, are you leaving now? What about Lucia? Save it in that brat's hands for now, and we'll pick it up later." Oh oh oh. Listening to the sirens outside getting closer and closer, Holden slowly followed Wei Ji out of the shop, and before leaving, he did not forget to wave to Li Luyao. "Kid, you really hide your secrets. I actually let Boss Wei get a kick out of it. There will be some fun in the future, we'll see you later. Go away, go away. Remember to bring more powerful guys next time." As the 2 people left, Xiao Haiden, who had been silent on the ground, started to speak, and shouted excitedly, "Master, master." Did Xiao Haiden make a meritorious service? Isn't Xiao Haiden very powerful and useful? Well, it's not bad. I'll give you a magic core to eat when I get back. Little Hei Tan is injured. Hei Tan wants to. Can the master give me 2 magic cores? Okay, hurry back to the hospital to see how the 2 old people are doing, and arrest those gangsters by the way. I want to hand them over to the police. As you command, master. Little Haiden twisted his body happily and slipped out from the crack of the door like a loach. Lucia, who witnessed the whole process from the side, had a complicated expression and complained, "Is this your demon pet? Why does it look like poop? It's so disgusting." "Ha," Li Luyao retorted loudly, "it is your savior, okay. If Xiao Haiden hadn't taken action just now, you would have been kidnapped by the bad guys now." "Humph, this lady will not be kidnapped." Lucia put her hands on her hips and said childishly, "I can turn into a bat and a lone wolf, and can do anything in heaven or on earth. A few bad guys can't do anything to me. I'm going to travel around the world now, so you can go too. I don't like being followed by a drag bottle." Li Luyao respected the little girl's decision very much and did not take her words to heart. He just said, "Of course it's okay if you want to leave, but you have to go back and say goodbye to Dr. Chen at least. She is really worried from the bottom of her heart. It's so rude of you to leave without saying goodbye." Lucia said coyly, "I left a letter for my aunt and hid it in the drawer. She will find it." Li Luyao shook his head. "It only makes sense to say goodbye in person. How can I just leave a letter? Let's go back to the hospital first. As for how to walk the rest of the way, that's your own business. No one can do it. I won't stop you." Lucia looked at Li Luyao and found that the big brother in front of her really didn't seem to force him. She finally compromised and said, "Okay, I'll just go back with you." Li Luyao smiled with satisfaction, and when he saw the car lights turning on in the distance, he said, "You go next door to play for a while, I will handle the things here, but don't involve you." Lucia walked away obediently. Li Luyao waited outside the store for a moment, and 3 police cars roared and stopped in front of him. The first person to get out of the car was Joe Rongrong. She was wearing a simple windbreaker and her hair was combed into a high ponytail. Her unpainted face was shining brightly and with a bit of anger. When she came up, she covered her face and asked, "What's going on? You're not a good person. Are you recuperating in the hospital? Why do you come out to cause trouble again?" Li Luyao couldn't help but be happy when he saw Joe Rongrong. He said stupidly, "I didn't cause any trouble. I have made a great contribution. I captured a group of CIA agents lying there. Go and have a look." "Really or not?" Joe Rongrong entered the door with some doubts, and quickly greeted outside happily. Hurry up and seal the scene and bring these spies back to the police station. More than a dozen policemen with live ammunition swarmed up and took the CIA agents away in a hurry. Everyone's face was beaming with joy, and there were some whispered comments in the middle. Wow, we were so lucky today, we actually caught a spy. Looking at the passport, it seems that it came from a beautiful country. This case is huge. This year's quota has been completed at once. What are these guys hiding here for? That octopus monster must be at least an S-level animal type user. Who killed them all? The guy who called the police was the young man just now. Didn't you see that Director Joe was very affectionate towards him? He might be from the Dragon Group. Dragon Team. That's the National Security Bureau's superpower tactical team. He can join the Dragon Team at a young age. This young man's strength is definitely extraordinary, and his future is limitless. I'm so envious. This guy must be Director Joe's little boyfriend, right? They are such a match made in heaven. Stop gossiping here and take the person back quickly. The people from the Interrogation Bureau are already waiting. We will all be on the front page of Shinwan Network tomorrow, so cheer up. 2 police cars took the prisoners away first, while the rest were busy sealing off the scene, cleaning up and investigating. Li Luyao told Joe Rongrong everything that happened today. He also reminded that there was a group of gangsters at the hospital and they must be caught and severely punished. Joe Rongrong glanced at Li Luyao with a strange look and wondered, what's going on with you? Why do you encounter weird things no matter where you are? Are you some kind of broom star? Conan is possessed, bad things will happen wherever he goes, right? Li Luyao scratched his head and thought to himself, I am a lucky Superman with an extremely lucky index, the chosen protagonist in an invincible story. In the future, we will have to save the Earth, fight against alien invasions, punch God and kick the devil. This is not a big deal. The scene is nothing. I don't know how many surprises there will be in the future. How is your treatment going? I've been too busy these days and haven't had time to call Sister Chen. Have you been treating your illness well in the hospital? Faced with Joe Rongrong's sudden concern, Li Luyao felt a little embarrassed and complained, well, I've only been in the hospital for 1 day. I've had dozens of bottles of infusion alone, and it almost beat me to pieces. It's a balloon. Then Dr. Chen really locked me in a special ward without giving me food or water. How about we switch to another hospital and go to your home for treatment? Okay, don't be downcast here. When you are cured, I will arrange secret training for you. There are many cultivation methods suitable for you in my home. You can stay there for a long time at any time in the future. Joe Rongrong reached out and touched his head, as if coaxing a child, and said with a smile, you did a good job today. I will report it to you later. Maybe I can help you evaluate an outstanding citizen and a third-class individual. The spy can be awarded 500,000 yuan if you don't talk about it. You can think about how to spend it when you have the money. This is a huge sum of money. Quote. A spy only costs 500,000. That guy Wei Ji quoted a price of 3 million. The gap between riding a horse is too big. Li Luyao was complaining in his heart when Joe Rongrong suddenly opened his hands and gave him a shallow hug. For a moment, the fragrance filled his nostrils and his arms were filled with fragrant jade. Li Luyao felt that his whole body was gently wrapped by clouds. All his thoughts, distractions and worries were left behind, and his whole body instantly became calm and peaceful. Let's go. Recuperate in the hospital. We'll see you later. Joe Rongrong patted his back gently, quickly left, got into the passenger seat of a police car, and drove into the night without looking back. Seeing his sweetheart leave, Li Luan didn't come back to his senses for a long time, and he didn't even know when Lucia came to the side. Do you like that, sister? How much do you like it? I like it very much. There's no way you two can be together. You fart. Li Luyao was furious. Why do you say that? Lucia said seriously. You are a vampire and she is a human. Your union is against nature. The children born in the future will also be half human and half ghost. They will receive a lot of cold looks and ridicule, just like me. Quote. Li Luyao's heart skipped a beat for no reason, as if he saw many tragic childhood experiences in Lucia's expression, and asked softly, you must have had a hard time in these years. Lucia wrote lightly, it doesn't matter, I'm used to it. I was born not to belong to this world. If I want to live, I must find my own way. I don't want to be a vampire or a werewolf. But I can't change these things. I can. What has changed is my own mentality and the way I look at the world. Li Luyao stretched out his hand to rub her hair and said with a smile, "Children, please don't imitate adults. We shouldn't be vampires, werewolves, etc. if we don't want to. I still don't believe there is no cure for this disease." When we returned to the hospital, it was just dawn. Dr. Chen was so happy that he cried again when he saw Lucia returning from an outing. Lucia, who had been shouting along the way to pack her luggage and say goodbye formally when she came back, immediately became frightened into a good baby when faced with such a battle. After being fed a breakfast, she went to sleep honestly. Li Luyao was neither hungry nor sleepy, and was in great spirits. He visited the two elderly people in the ward, and rewarded Xiao Haiden with 2 magic cores. He planned to study the treatment method of the vampire virus today. After all, it was a major event in my future life, so I took the initiative to go to Dr. Chen's office. Is something wrong? Dr. Chen, who was arranging the hospital's security measures, raised his head and glanced at him, then continued to work hard and said casually, "Didn't you ask the nurse to take you for infusion? What are you doing here?" Li Luyao sat down on the chair and said straight to the point, "Infusion and other things are of no use to me. I think we can try a new method." Dr. Chen asked without raising his head, "Are you studying medicine?" Li Luyao shook his head, "No." "Then do you understand every stage of the vampire virus from infection to attack to out of control?" "Don't know." "Then what are you going to say?" "Well." Li Luyao was speechless for a moment and immediately tried to make amends for himself, "But I am a recovery superpower." "Have you ever tried superpower therapy?" Dr. Chen finally closed the document in his hand and asked doubtfully, "Aren't you a person with enhanced abilities? When did you become a restorer?" "Hey, you don't know this." Li Luyao reached out and made a piece of golden magic bread like a magic trick. He handed it to Dr. Chen with a smile and said proudly, "The bread I made can help people restore their physical strength and improve their psychic abilities. There is even a chance that a person's second awakening can heal most injuries. How about you let me try?" Dr. Chen took the bread, put it aside, looked into his eyes, and said seriously, "I have been researching vampire viruses for 7 or 8 years. During this period, I have tried no less than 100 treatments, including superpower treatment, but the results are not optimistic. I once heard that there is a restorative power that can make people reborn and rejuvenate, but the price is the loss of the caster's life. The telephone poles outside are full of all kinds of superpower tricks that can cure all diseases and cure diseases with medicine. The ones that are really useful, not one. Please don't use your ignorance to question my professionalism, it makes me uncomfortable." Li Luyao smiled awkwardly, but still said shamelessly, "I just said casually, don't be so serious. My magic bread is really effective. Everyone who has eaten it said it is good. Why don't you take me to have a look? For other patients, I'll let them try the effect, there's no harm in it anyway." Dr. Chen still said seriously, "Just because you say there is no harm does not mean that there is really no harm. The opinions of a layman like you have no reference value. For the sake of caution, I will send your bread to the laboratory for a full test later. If professional pathological analysis is of any use, I will consider your suggestion. Compared with these, you'd better go back to the ward to prepare for the infusion and don't worry about things you shouldn't worry about. Hand over those blood bags to me immediately, I don't want to see you eating blood again, even if it's animal blood." Quote. Li Luyao was stunned by these words, and immediately raised his hands in surrender. "Master, stop reciting soon, I will leave now, you continue to do your business, farewell." After saying that, he rolled out of the office. The situation was even more embarrassing than meeting the legendary SSS-level strongman, and his scalp was numb. Although Li Luyao was a little frustrated after getting a bad reception from Dr. Chen, he did not give up. He found a nurse and asked where other wards were, and then sneaked over, planning to act alone. The collective ward is on the 5th floor of the hospital. There are mostly children infected with the virus who were admitted by the government for centralized treatment. I originally thought that a place with many children would be noisy, but Li Luyao noticed something was wrong as soon as he walked in. The corridor was eerily quiet, with the smell of disinfectant and lifelessness in the air. It was as if a thick layer of dark clouds had completely enveloped this floor, and the god of death was staring at him with his sickle, ready to harvest lives at any time. In the nearest ward, Li Luyao saw 5 patients lying on the bed. The symptoms of the little guys are all different. Some have horns on their heads and red eyes, some are completely black as if they have been severely burned, some have mouths full of fangs chewing on wooden boards, some have indwelling needles hanging all over their bodies, and their bodies are skinny and shriveled. Not humanoid. The children didn't even have the strength to cry, they just waited silently for their fate to come. Li Luyao felt as if he had been punched in the heart. Just as he was about to do something for the children, a nurse suddenly opened the door and came in. She saw Li Luyao and immediately asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here? This is not the place you should be." "Shut up. Be quiet," Li Luyao retorted angrily, and the psychic pressure he inadvertently emitted spread immediately, making the middle-aged ant unable to move and unable to make a sound. Li Luyao walked quickly to the little boy who was chewing on the wooden board, took out a piece of magic bread from his arms, and asked, "Would you like to try this? My bread is delicious." When the little boy saw the bread, his eyes suddenly lit up, and without saying a word, he pounced on him like a hungry wolf, biting Li Luyao's finger while taking the bread away. Hiss. Li Luyao was not angry, but felt pitiful. He smiled and said, "Eat slowly, I have plenty here if you want." The child gulped down the bread and looked at Li Luyao eagerly again, obviously wanting to continue eating. Li Luyao smiled and made dozens of slices of bread in one breath and put them on the bed. He didn't care how much spiritual energy he spent. He only had one thought in his mind. If he could save these children, he would do anything. "Kid, what's your name?" The little boy who had eaten the bread became a little more conscious and replied in a low voice, "My name is Zhang Xiaolong. The dragon is the dragon of the divine dragon. My mother said that she dreamed of a dragon when she gave birth to me, so she gave me this one name." "That's a good name. What about your mother? Does she come to see you often?" Xiaolong choked up and said, "My mother died and she hasn't come to see me for a long time. The nurse aunt told me that if I die too, I can see her again. Brother, I really want to see my mother, can I die now too?" Li Luyao froze on the spot, and after a long time he spoke with difficulty, "You have to live 100 years, but you can't die now. Your mother gave birth to you and gave you such a nice name because she wanted you to being able to soar freely in the sky like a dragon. Do you feel better? Are there any changes in your body?" Xiaolong ate the bread with big mouthfuls, his empty eyes gradually lit up, and he said happily, "This is the most delicious bread I have ever eaten. Brother, are you the new chef? Are you here to cook for us?" Then he got out of bed, shook the little boy next door, and shouted, soy milk, wake up quickly. Today's breakfast is very delicious. Get up and try it." The boy called down. I had indwelling needles hanging all over his body. He was so skinny that he was almost in human shape. He opened his eyes when he heard the cry, then closed them quickly, and said in a daze, "I don't want to eat, and I don't want to get an injection. I'm going to pass out today so the nurse won't give me an injection. Don't disturb me." Quote, "This bread is really delicious, I'd fool you into thinking it was a puppy." Xiaolong took the half-bitten piece of bread and put it directly under Do Nai's nose, and tried to stuff it directly into his mouth. Do Nai raised her hand to open him, but when she smelled an alluring aroma, she sat up and said in surprise, "It smells so good. Let me have a taste." Xiaolong immediately moved the bread on his bed over there, and said happily, "I'm not lying to you, this big brother is the new chef, he is very powerful, right?" Dao Nai didn't reply. He ate 3 pieces of bread in one breath, let out a long burp, rubbed his belly with his hands, and said doubtfully, "This bread is so strange. I only ate so much and I felt full. I usually can't. You could eat an elephant." Then he called Xiaolong. "We can't eat such delicious food alone, call Xiaobing and the others. Is it a holiday today? Is the spring festival coming soon?" "I don't know, it seems to be coming soon. I used to be able to eat a lot of delicious food during the spring festival. It seems that the new year is about to begin." Xiaolong gently woke up all the children in the ward and gave them bread one by one. Li Luyao saw that the bread was sold out quickly, and he immediately turned his back and made more. Suddenly his legs went weak and he almost fell to the ground. "Kiki, big brother just fell down. I saw it too. Brother, have you not had breakfast? Do you want to eat with us? The children showed concern for Li Luyao and took the initiative to bring the remaining bread. Li Luyao smiled weakly and said, "It's okay, thank you. I've had breakfast, don't worry about me." As he said this, he felt worried for no reason in his heart. Making so much magic bread at once has never been done before. This kind of restoration spell that embodied psychic energy almost hollowed out his body, causing a greater burden than imagined. The nurse aunt who was standing in the corner suddenly found that she had regained control of her body. When Li Luyao was not paying attention, she quickly opened the door and escaped. As she ran away, she shouted, "Security! Call the security! There is a mentally ill person here who wants to abduct a child." The scream was both miserable and urgent, and it instantly echoed throughout the entire floor. Many doctors and nurses heard the sound and came over, and security guards with guns and ammunition also rushed here quickly. Li Luyao wasn't afraid or didn't care, he just didn't want to get into a fight among the children, so he told the little ones, "Eat all the bread and share some with everyone." As he spoke, he stepped out and rushed away from the crowd like a ghost, disappearing in an instant. Catch him quickly. He is here to abduct children, go and see how many children are missing. He ran downstairs, "Please notify the security guard at the gate. Don't let him run away, that guy is mentally ill." Amidst the noise, Li Luyao had already returned to his special ward, and collapsed on the bed with his back stretched out. His body was sore and painful, and he couldn't exert any strength. It's so unreasonable to be yelled at and beaten by everyone for doing something good. The side effects of this magic bread are too great. If I make a few more, I'm afraid it will drain me dry. Okay, anyway, everything that needs to be done has been done. I hope it will be of some benefit to the children. We will just wait for the results. Li Luyao thought like this, reluctantly pulled up the quilt, turned over, and fell asleep. In a daze, he had a dream. In the dream, he saw Joe Rongrong and Dr. Chen being interviewed at a press conference. They jointly announced that the vampire virus had been conquered, a new generation of specific drugs had been developed, and all infected patients had been cured. The children were wearing beautiful clothes, and each of them had bright red faces and beaming with joy. They were holding hands with their parents, and their happy smiles were particularly touching. Xiaolong ran over and gave him a painting. In the painting, Li Luyao was indeed a chef, wearing a tall chef's hat and cooking ingredients. Downai gave him an Ultraman toy, saying that it was his most precious amulet and that as long as he made a wish to Ultraman, all his wishes would come true. Lucia didn't know where she got a golden medal and hung it solemnly around Li Luyao's neck in recognition of his great contribution to human medical care. Everyone is so happy and has a smile on everyone's face. Everything looked so beautiful, but Li Luyao felt empty in his heart, as if he had lost something important, and a ray of sadness filled his heart. He didn't know how long he slept for. When he woke up, he felt a slight tingling sensation on his arm, and there were whispers around him, which he couldn't hear clearly. Opening his eyes suddenly, he immediately found that the small ward was packed with people. There were many armed security guards standing at the door, and near the hospital bed were a group of doctors and nurses in white coats. They were whispering and discussing something, and everyone looked at him strangely, as if they were sizing up some monster. It's all good. This young man almost died suddenly in the hospital. Fortunately, the nurse found it early, otherwise he would have been saved. It's rare to see a person with superpowers completely overdraw their spiritual power. When I checked him just now, he didn't even have a pulse or heartbeat. He was no different from a dead person. I heard that he was a patient sent by Director Joe himself. The files and everything are state secrets. If such a person dies in the hospital, we will all be held responsible. It's been so long and you still don't have to take responsibility. If we can get out alive, we'll just be thankful. Hey, this person seems to be awake. What's the use of waking up? We've all been kidnapped by terrorists now. If you ask me, he might as well continue to fall asleep. This might save his life. Don't be so pessimistic. Those terrorists are here to find Lucia. As long as she is handed over, we will definitely be saved. This is the truth, but Dr. Chen would rather die than obey, and maybe he will drag us to be buried with him. Now we can't make calls, and there is no way to report to the police. I suggest that everyone write a suicide note to explain the funeral arrangements as soon as possible. It's really hopeless. Li Luyao wanted to pretend to be asleep and listen for a while, but the more he listened, the more he felt something was wrong, so he had to take the initiative to ask, "What terrorists? What kidnapping? What are you talking about? I can't understand a word. Just sleep well and don't get up. There are terrorists everywhere outside now and it's very dangerous." A doctor said something kindly, but Li Luyao was still confused. What kind of terrorist? What time is it now, and how long have I been asleep? It's past 10 o'clock in the evening. You've slept all day long. Don't move around. You're still getting infusions. Hey, the more you talk, the more excited you are, right? Li Luyao directly pulled out the needle on his body. He wanted to get out of bed but found that his head was dizzy and his body had no strength. He struggled and asked, "Where is Dr. Chen? Where is Dr. Chen? And Lucia? Just stay well." The doctor wanted to push him down, but even if Li Luyao was weak, he was not something ordinary people could handle. The doctor found that this guy was like a bull, so he did not ask for trouble, and just said, "Dr. Chen, take Lucy with you. Ya is hiding somewhere else, and the terrorists outside are here to cause trouble for them. It is recommended that you don't go out and cause trouble at this time." Li Luyao rubbed his eyebrows and asked casually, "Is there a blonde man and a tall and thin man among those terrorists?" The doctor thought for a while and replied, "Yes, there is a blonde man, a hot beauty, and a fat man." "Why, do you know them?" It turned out to be someone from Anhe. Li Luyao showed a wry smile. He originally thought that they would stay quiet for a few days, but he didn't expect that they would come to the door so quickly. "That's fine, the soldiers will come to block the water and the earth will cover it up. Anyway, I never thought about escaping. If I wanted to fight, I would just fight." Li Luyao recovered his strength slightly, suddenly jumped up, flew directly over everyone's heads, and landed outside the door in the blink of an eye. The corridors and halls are full of people seeking refuge, with patients huddled in corners under the protection of doctors and nurses, and a handful of security guards guarding intersections. The elevator was no longer in use. There was a fat man wearing an old man's vest sitting on the other side of the stairs, holding a roast chicken in his hand and eating it with relish. Li Luyao walked straight to him and asked in a cold voice, "Where is Wei Ji?" The fat man chuckled stupidly and said, "Do you know Boss Wei? The boss is playing a game of eagle and chicken. Let me guard him here." Oh, Li Luyao walked downstairs, and the fat man suddenly stretched out his hand to block his way. Boss Wei said that no one is allowed to go downstairs without his order. Li Luyao frowned. "Really? Then I have to leave." The fat man grinned. "Then don't blame me for being rude. I don't eat people without spitting out their bones. You'd better be careful." The fat man kept his promise and swallowed the whole roast chicken in his hand. He chewed it and swallowed it into his stomach. Sure enough, he didn't spit out a single bone. Then he randomly picked up the glass, chairs, wood, and bricks on the ground, and stuffed them all into his mouth as if he wasn't picky about food. Li Luyao was amused and asked, "I guess my guess is right, your superpower should be the ability to eat." "I'm only half right, I'm an S-level animal type user, I." Before he finished speaking, there was a crisp, pop, sound and Li Luyao slapped him in the face. Actually, there was another, snap, and Li Luyao slapped him for the second time. "Just go ahead and let me finish." There was another, pop, sound, and Li Luyao used his strength and slapped him away. The body of 300 kilograms directly knocked out a big hole in the stone wall. Li Luyao shook his hand and complained, "I thought the people in Anhe were some powerful characters, but I didn't expect them to be like this." The fat man ate several mouthfuls of gravel and bricks in the cave, and said angrily, "I'm angry, I'm going to eat you." I saw that his already fat body became huge again, inflating rapidly like a balloon, and soon turned into a gray-skinned wild boar with a height of 8 feet and a waist of 8 feet. It screamed strangely and made a sudden leap towards Li Luyao. Li Luyao glanced at him and walked directly down the stairs. Seeing the wild boar chasing him, he flipped lightly and sat on the back of the wild boar. He reached out and grabbed the 2 pig ears and said with a smile, "Very good. I am the wild boar rider now, take me to Wei Ji quickly." The wild boar shook its body and wanted to throw the man off its back, but Li Luyao had already had rich experience in training animals. He clamped his legs and leaned forward. Even if the wild boar jumped into the sky, it would not be able to hit him, pose any threat. Finally, the gray-skinned wild boar was so angry that he came up with a cruel idea. He smashed the wall on the stairs and fell down from the 5th floor, including the pig and the man. I didn't expect you to be a crazy pig. Be honest. Li Luyao punched him hard several times, adjusted his position in the air in time, used the 300 kilograms of fat as a backing, and landed safely. The gray-skinned wild boar got up from the ground in a daze, wanting to continue to cause trouble for Li Luyao. When he looked around, he had already lost sight of his opponent. He angrily knocked on the door and entered, shouting as he ran, "You idiot, if you have the guts, I'll give it to you. I'm coming out, Grandpa Pig, I'm going to fight you for 300 rounds." Li Luyao was hiding on the ceiling, suddenly fell from the sky and got into the car again. He punched the pig's head with one punch from the left and the other, causing the pig to scream terribly. The pig-like screams echoed in the hospital, quickly alerting others. A graceful and scantily clad woman stepped out from the shadows. She had a snake-like face and a water snake waist. She was wearing a transparent low-cut dress. Her proud figure was fully exposed. Under the dress, there was actually a vacuum. The air around him became ambiguous. "Stupid pig, what are you yelling at? You almost ruined my sister's good deeds." The woman cursed, and when she saw the boar rider on the pig's back, she immediately changed the topic and smiled sweetly. "What a refreshing little brother, you can actually control this big wild boar. It seems that you must be a powerful one. Those with enhanced abilities." Li Luyao didn't answer her question and asked straight to the point, "Where is Wei Ji? Let him come out and die." As soon as he finished speaking, another blonde man came out of the shadows. It was Holden, whom he had only seen during the day. "Who's looking for Boss Wei?" "Hey, it's you kid again. Boss Wei is looking for you everywhere. I didn't expect you to come to me. Tell me quickly, where did you hide Lucia?" Li Luyao said coldly, "I don't know. Even if I know, I won't tell you. Let your boss come out. If you don't beat him into a pig head today, my surname will not be Li." After hearing this, the woman immediately smiled and said, "This little brother is so brave, I like him so much. Holden, introduce him to me quickly, I can't wait to include him in the harem." Holden rarely said seriously, "This kid is too deep in the water. I'm afraid you won't be able to grasp it. I advise you, it's best not to provoke him. If he goes crazy, even Boss Wei would dare to beat him." "Really? That's great. Sister, I like men who can't be controlled best. Those who lick dogs are the most annoying. This kind of domineering little fresh meat is more attractive." The woman took a step forward, bowed gracefully, and introduced herself. "My name is Xiyan, the princess on the dark river, the Medusa in the abyss. I am older than you can call me sister. I like siblings best. I'm in love, can you be my next lover? I promise to make you happy every day." Li Luyao didn't bother to pay attention to her at all, looked at Holden, and continued to ask, "Where is Wei Ji? Where is he hiding?" Holden stretched out his hand and pointed upward, "He's catching Lucia. Why isn't that little girl with you?" Li Luyao didn't answer. He just rode a wild boar and was about to go upstairs. Xiyan was very angry when he was ignored. He blocked the stairs and asked, "Sister, I'm asking you, are you willing to be my lover?" Li Luyao said displeased. Sometimes refusing to answer is also an answer. We are all adults. Do you have to let me tell the truth to hurt your fragile self-esteem? When Xiyan heard this, he became even more angry. He immediately stretched out his arms and made an extremely seductive posture, highlighting his proud figure to the greatest extent. He asked in a tired voice, "Sister, I don't know how many men have been fascinated by this figure. Don't you think that sister a rare beauty in the world? You have no desire or possessiveness at all." Li Luyao said frankly, "You do have some good looks, but you have a strong smell of dust and are not my type. You may not believe it, but I have seen people who are prettier and have better figures than you. So, your charm is totally worthless to me and cannot tempt me at all." "I don't believe it. You lied." Xiyan's heartfelt words were indeed stepped on. She said angrily, "There is no woman in the world who is more beautiful and has a better figure than me. If you have the ability, call that guy over and let's compete." Compare. Boring. Li Luyao was not interested in Xiyan's proposal at all. In his mind, Joe Rongrong's status was unshakable and there was no need to compete. Besides, if you really want to compare Joe Rongrong with such a promiscuous woman, it will simply damage the image of Rongrong's glorious and majestic goddess, and you must not do this. Brother Pig, let's go. Li Luyao raised his hand and patted the big wild boar's butt. After being beaten, the guy was obviously more honest and stopped struggling. The big wild boar immediately made a sudden leap and rushed towards Shi Yan as nimbly as an agile fat man. Shi Yan stood there and did not give in. He suddenly raised his body and made a gesture of contempt, commanding the man and the pig, "In the name of Medusa, turn me into stone." As soon as the words fell, an invisible spiritual pressure swept over him immediately. Countless pictures flashed before Li Luyao's eyes. In the pictures, Shi Yan was posing and looking extremely graceful. His figure, which brought disaster to the country and the people, matched with that beautiful and troubled face. It was both charming and exciting, both dissolute and full of hormones. Whenever a man saw it, such a sight makes the lustful mind arouse, and one cannot hold it back for a moment. Li Luyao covered his eyes with his hands, trying to dispel the illusion, but found that it was useless. Even if I close my eyes, those erotic scenes still appear in my mind, just like dozens of love-action movies playing in my heart at the same time. If I were to depict those scenes, I am afraid that the tomato beast would directly block them permanently. While Li Luyao was disturbed, the big wild boar under him was not much better either. His body was swaying, and he was trembling while making unexplained sounds. It seemed that he was affected by this strange spell. Completely bewitched, completely incapacitated. Shi Yan in front said with a proud smile, "Sister is right, no man can resist my charm, not even a stupid pig. If you give up resistance now, my sister will take you into the room and love you right away." Or do you prefer to do all kinds of things with your sister in your dreams? Li Luyao didn't say anything, he just clenched his fist and punched the big wild boar hard, and cursed, "Pig, if you're a man, stand up for me. You are a dignified S-level animal ability user, handsome, elegant, and rich in knowledge. You are so talented, how could you succumb to the power of such a woman? Wake up." He punched one after another until the wild boar screamed desperately. The screams of chirping, squealing, and snoring instantly filled the hospital hall, invisibly causing a fatal blow to those luscious illusions. This situation is like when you are doing something like clouds and rain, feeling the wonderful emotion of the great harmony of heaven and earth, and suddenly the sound of gongs, drums, suonas and pigs bleating sounds in your ears. It is really frustrating for everyone. I can no longer concentrate on enjoying it. Li Luyao was surprised to find that this trick was actually effective, and immediately beat him harder. I just felt pity for the big wild boar who was beaten all over his head. He cried out in grievance, "Praise me when you praise me, hit me when you hit me. What's going on when you praise me and hit me at the same time? I don't want to lose face. Ha 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 ha, brother pig, you finally woke up." Li Luyao laughed loudly, "It's true when I praise you, and when I hit you, it's true that I praise you and hit you at the same time, which shows that I sincerely admire your glorious and independent character. Let's go, brother Zhu, let's go and do it. That rotten cabbage. Okay, I've known that woman for so long, and this is the first time I've resisted her charm. She's so awesome. Hold on tight, Uncle Pig, I'm going to speed up. Piggy whirlwind." The big wild boar shouted out the name of a beautiful move, and the man and the pig turned into a tornado and rushed forward bravely. "Ah!" Shi Yan screamed and didn't have time to dodge. He was hit by the big wild boar and flew out. He rolled on the ground for a long distance before barely stopping. Li Luyao stabbed the pig with his sword, looked back at Shi Yan, and said proudly, "Your beauty trap is really a bit too low, don't use it in the future to embarrass yourself. Did you see it? Pigs shake their heads when they see you." Quote. Shi Yan was thrown with blood on his face, and when he heard these words, he became even more furious. He pointed at Li Luyao and yelled, "Little fool, just wait for me, sister, I have to tear you apart. Ha ha ha, come if you can. Brother Zhu, let's go." Li Luyao slapped the pig's butt and immediately disappeared above the stairs like flying. Shi Yan wanted to chase her, but was a little scared. Fortunately, Holden stopped her in time, so she borrowed the donkey from the slope and said angrily, "No man has ever been able to resist my charm attack. That's the bad thing about that little devil. He is too young and does not know the benefits of my sister. I am lucky enough to let him win once. When he grows up, he will definitely fall under my pomegranate skirt. Holden suppressed his smile. That's right, that's right. Shiyan asked again. Who is guarding the second floor? Is it Okamoto or Troxy? Holden scratched his head. It seems to be from Okamoto. Shiyan immediately beamed. Okay, that kind of brat can bully a young girl like me. If Okamoto wants to bump into him, he has to cut him into pieces. As he spoke, he became inexplicably worried. No, I can't let Okamoto kill him. I really like this kid so much. Although he just offended me, sister, I have always been gentle and generous, and I can't be angry with him just because of this little thing. Angry. When I do a scene where a beauty saves a hero, that kid will definitely be impressed by me and fall in love with me forever. I can't wait to marry him. It's useless for anyone to object. Do you want to object? Holden raised his hands to show his innocence. I didn't. I support your marriage with both hands and feet. I've even thought about what your child will be called. Humph. That's pretty much it. Come on, let's follow and have a look. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.